All right. I think we're live. Daria, you're in the other room. Can you hear me? Is my microphone working? There's a bunch of new gear. We went out and bought a webcam today, and yeah, I get a thumbs up from the other room. So after this is our second attempt at a public live stream, and we've figured out kind of where the weak spots were the first time around when I rambled for 2.5 hours. I don't know if I'll make it that far tonight, but I'm just going to start talking and we'll see where this goes. I was struggling doing this myself, trying to keep up with questions because the chat kind of got rolling last time. So Daria is now like in call screener position. She's taken up residence in the office, and she's going to be sending me your questions so that I can keep up with the live chat. Last time the camera didn't look very good because my laptop sucks, and I noticed after we did it that there's like half of my internal webcam lens was blurry, so it just looked like it. That I can't imagine how annoying that would have been to watch. It's like you have some smudge on your screen that you're just trying to get out the whole time. So I went out today to Fortune Town in Bangkok and bought a webcam like it was 2003, and so that's clipped on. And we didn't have wine last time, so one thing that, just to get this out of the way up front, I was hoping when we did this the first time, this is like a chance to kind of get away from scripted sort of OTR stuff, which means I'm super happy to talk about whatever you want to bring up, any questions related to the channel, but also feel free to go beyond that. I'm just here. We're on microphone. I'm at home. I have wine. So if you want to bring up anything from us away from the camera to sports or music or dating advice or television shows, because we've been binge watching a few series this year. What We Do in the Shadows, rest in peace, just finished a couple of nights ago. But yeah, so we're online, and I really appreciate everybody joining us. I like doing this. This is a lot of fun. Just so you guys know, before I dive in to questions, I'm going to give kind of a little bit of an update about where we are right now. We've just finished it's strange, like, doing this new sort of travel kind of content, which is amazing because it lets us sort of expand on bigger ideas, but it's really hard from a writing perspective because now we just did the pho video. That was when we filmed, like, before me and Daria went to the US. So we filmed that in October and just got that one written and edited last week. We've caught up on what we filmed previously, but we just came back from Laos. So we did a week-long trip to Vientiane, which is, if you remember a long time ago, I posted a poll about like where we should travel. And sorry, I'm going to do a little behind the scenes breaking the fourth wall for a second. Daria, can you crank the air conditioner in that room? Because if I turn this on, it's going to be loud. But I'm already seeing myself starting to sweat through this shirt. Yeah, so like when I wrote that post about where do you want to see us go and sort of explore, I was kind of hoping that like the obvious answer would be Hanoi, because it's the best known of everything on the list, because we already had a trip planned to go there. But the majority of the votes actually went, or the plurality at least, went to Laos, which is awesome, and I'm really excited to kind of dive into that. But we have just come back from shooting, and we brought not just Dennis, who's our lead videographer, but also Carol, Dennis's wife, who herself is a professional videographer and director. And so this is going to be just epic. We were there for a week. The first 3 days were running. Daria won. I'll throw it out there because she's not here to be embarrassed by it. She finished first among women in the half marathon in her age group. So she got to is a trophy somewhere. It's not on the table here. She got a trophy, and I got a participation trophy for running my first ever 10K, which was crazy because that's more than I ever ran in my life at one time ever. But yeah, so then after that, Dennis and Carol flew in, and we filmed what's going to end up most likely being 2 videos. One on just what is Laotian food, and that's like 3 days of filming just for that video. And then another one where we went to a Hmong village, and results of that visit in terms of actually understanding Hmong food was limited, but it was a crazy experience, and we'll find a way to make a good video out of that. And we also filmed one. So Boris is no longer with us, one of our directors. He's about to take on a project. Well, he's not out, we're thrilled to have him come back and do videos with us in the future. He's just got a project that's going to bring him overseas for a while. And so we're working in a new director for occasional filming, a guy named Ian, who I always like to do something with. I did this with Jasper, did this with Boris, did this with Dennis, where the first, when I have a new person who's kind of doing the cameras, I'll do a zero pressure shoot where we don't expect to put it on screen because our working process is really intense. And I just want to ease somebody into it and let them kind of see how OTR does things. And so we shot one with Ian, which unfortunately, his footage looks incredible. So now it's not going to be a throwaway. I'm going to find a way to make it into a video, but that's what I'm sort of working on behind closed doors right now. Because of the holidays, it slowed things down a little bit from a production standpoint, but most likely the next video we're going to put up will be that one, which is filmed here in Bangkok, and it was about a neighborhood called Songwat, which was referenced in Time Out as one of the 40 coolest neighborhoods in the world. And at the time it was referenced as one of the world's coolest neighborhoods, I had never heard of it. And we live in Bangkok, and my job is to know about Bangkok. So we started kind of hanging out and exploring down that way. And it has a really crazy story. There's a good reason why we didn't know about it. So yeah, we went out and shot down there with some amazing guests, and I'm sort of in the process of turning that into a video now and working our way through the Lao footage. Anyway, as I take my first sip of wine, thank you so much for joining us. And I feel like Eddie Vedder on stage. And most of all, thank you for helping us to reach 200,000 subscribers. That's a crazy milestone. And again, I am just as happy making videos with, if one person watches, I still am excited that anybody sees what we do. And the numbers are now reaching the point where it is, I don't really process it or think about it because it's just, it's more OTR subscribers. There are 4 times more OTR subscribers now than there are people in my hometown, which is wild. All right, questions. Let's start at the beginning. So again, Daria is going to be sending these to me so I can keep up with the chat, but I'm not necessarily going to be very good at that. So please forgive me if you send me a message that's urgent and you need me to see it because it's relevant to what we're talking about. Daria, just shout from the other room, or just send Blanca in here like a carrier pigeon. All right, so Blog Gloob have no, that's Blog Gloob. It's just bold versus no. We'll get the hang of it. Asks, have you eaten stinky beans in Indonesia? Yes, but I didn't know it until after we made our video on the satay bean. In Sumatra, the petai, as it's called in Indonesia, is it's not as front and center. Like when we made the video on the satay, this is like we're diving into the deep end with these questions. Welcome, new viewers. Let's talk about the stinky bean. The satay, which kind of blew my mind in South China as this thing that you eat that's just like sulfuric and crazy, and was sort of when I kind of fell in love with the idea of living in Southeast Asia. Just finding this new thing. It turned out I knew it well already from Sumatra, but typically there it's made into sambals. So it's going to be like a bitter component. But without knowing what you're eating, I actually didn't realize the last time that we were down there, which was February this year. Then now knowing what I was looking at, I started to kind of see it a lot more, and at least taste it. But yeah, so it's in what's interesting about the use of this the satay in South Thailand is how much it's sort of the dish. In Indonesia, it's definitely, at least in the part of Indonesia where I'm most familiar, it is used, but it's at least in Medan and that area, it's kind of more like chopped up and put into a sambal, which is a chili paste, or a chili sauce. All right, so Food History asks, I'll get in early. I don't know why I'm doing that as a voice. in Bangkok to film food history stuff in February. I was hoping to catch you for 10 minutes for an interview. Oh, okay. So like, yeah, just send a direct message on. This is like in school. It's like, do you need to ask that question in front of the class? Yes, I'd be happy to. It's 10 minutes is going to be a stretch because I am very wordy, but I can, half an hour might be easier. Yeah, I would love to do it. You've been very supportive since I don't know, Mr. History, whether you were one of our first, few thousand subscribers, but I know you've been commenting on our videos and in touch with us since really early. So yeah, of course, happy to. February 9th to 12th, 19th to 25th. The only things I know in that time, we're going to be in Vietnam for a couple of days with Daria's family. I don't think we're going to shoot while we're there. It's just a quick family trip. And when's the Green Day? We have tickets to a Green Day concert in Bangkok, 12th or 13th. So one of those nights we're going to be at Impact Arena to watch a Green Day concert, which is something that I owe Daria because we had tickets to watch Green Day play in March 2020, which was going to be her 30th birthday. Sorry to blow your age up on the air. That was a big deal. We had friends flying in from all over, and then COVID hit and the concert got canceled. That was going to be in Hong Kong. So we're making up for lost time and going to the show in February. That'll be, at least I'll take a few hours off work for that. When and why did garlic become prevalent in every Asian cuisine? That is a great and interesting question that I know very little about. To the best of my knowledge, if I'm just spouting this offhand, garlic is endemic, and endemic means very little because, things move around, as is the entire purpose of our channel, but to Central Asia, and there are arguments that it is as far as the Persian Gulf, and there are some who say it came from the mountains that are kind of between Myanmar and China. Basically, you can draw this gigantic circle on the map and people can trace the use of garlic back a really, 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 really long way. So I don't know the answer to that question, but it is endemic to Asia. And there's, it's a long time garlic has been used. It's more interesting how garlic became prevalent in the West, because that is a Silk Road ingredient, yeah, garlic. It's hard to imagine. I mean, again, like we talk about how would, Greek or Italian food taste without garlic. They had it, that was a long, long, long time ago. Garlic was already not necessarily being like dried and shipped and in transit, but it was growing all over. I don't know when and how it reached the New World, if that was something that related to the Columbian Exchange. I don't know, I've never looked it up. But yeah, garlic, at least in the non-tropical parts of Asia, has a really, really, really long history. Interesting question. You guys are challenging me early. Adam, how was the Korat Marathon? We didn't do it. I don't remember why we didn't do it. I think it was like a week after me and Daria got back from the United States. Part of the idea of doing the Korat, this is Nakhon Ratchasima. I think this is a callback, maybe Beta Bug 64 for this question. This might be a callback to our last live stream where I talked about doing that, or maybe one of the Patreon, somebody's a Patreon supporter. We might have discussed that on Patreon. Yeah, so the idea of doing the Nakhon Ratchasima marathon was, I was doing right before we left for the US, I was doing my Thai driver's license exam, because we thought, I should get a car, right? Like, it'll be easier for us to drive around for the channel, and also just personally, logistically, if we have, a car, or at least can rent a car, then we don't need to figure out our dogs while we have 2 dogs. I'm sure you'll see before this is over. We won't need to figure out the dog situation before we travel somewhere, because that's always the hardest part about going out of town. They both have needs that make it a little difficult just to throw them in a kennel for a few days. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to get a Thai driver's license, and we're going to go to Nakhon Ratchasima. We'll find a dog-friendly hotel. There's a few in Khao Yai. Maybe we can find something in the city, and we'll make a good trip out of it. We'll film. We have friends who are really well versed in that city. We have friends who are from there, and we were really excited to do it. Then I failed my driving test, and then I failed it twice. So that, I think that was the reason we didn't do Nakhon Ratchasima, is I did pass it in the end on my third try. I know how to drive. I got my first driver's license in, like, my provisional driver's license, I got in 1999. Like, I've been driving for a long time. The Thai driving test, now there's two components. There's a written test and there's a in-person, car test. And I was confident going in about the in-person test, but I thought the written test is going to be a challenge. My reading and writing in Thai is not very good. And then it is translated into English, but not very well. And, you have to really kind of learn the rules, and there's very little margin for error. I think you need like more than 95% correct or something like that. You can only miss a couple out of 50 questions on the test. And so I was worried about that part, but I thought the in-car is going to be easy. And so I didn't really give us much time before I took the test, before we were going to do like the Nakhon Ratchasima Marathon, for example. And then I took the written test and I crushed it. I don't even think I got a single question wrong. Shout out to Fat Boy Motorcycles for being my trainers in this process. And yeah, so I took the driving test and I crushed the written part. So then I'm all confident, and I go to the in-car part of it, and you don't go on the road. Like, you don't take a car on the road. It's just on a closed course, and it's 3 kinds of parking, and that's it. And so you're supposed to drive forward and park behind a line, and then you're supposed to go to the end of a row of cones and then back up, and then you parallel park, and that's it. That's the whole test. If you wonder why Thailand's driving, crash fatality statistics are high, that might be something they want to examine. But yeah, so I got in the car, and the guy who had taken this before me had parked so close to the curb that as I was pulling out to just slowly drive forward and park behind a line, I clipped the curb, and immediately they're like, fail, game over. But continue, so see how you do on the next 2 parts of this. So I immediately failed the first part. I managed to drive straight and then back up behind the cones, so check for part 2. Part 3 was parallel parking. Knocked that out, no problem. So 2 out of 3. I had to come back and do the first part again. And then I somehow managed to fail it for a second time, because after driving forward and parking behind the line, they told me, oh, no, you didn't watch the instructional video, which was all in Thai with no subtitles, which explained that I wasn't supposed to park behind a line like any logical person would do when parking. You're supposed to park with your front wheels across the line, which doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so failed twice. If you ever are somebody who thinks, I love Thailand, but if you think of Thailand as being the land of smiles where everybody's friendly, don't go to the Department of Land Transport, because that'll change your mind. So yeah, no breaks for me. Took it a third time just out of anger, and understood what the challenge actually was and passed. So yeah, Nakhon Ratchasima next year. There was a second part to that question. Will you and Daria be doing the Khon Ken one in January next? Daria, that's up to you. She makes the running schedule. But it's been good. I'm happy to be running with her, in part because it's actually kind of fun to run, and it's gotten me to quit smoking. So it's like, because I can't run if I'm still smoking cigarettes. I take 10 steps and want to have a heart attack. And so I'm a month without smoking now, which is really the reason why I want to keep running. Any meetups? This is Alex Alder asking, any meetups planned in Bangkok sorry to just take this OTR themed video and hijack it and just complain about my driver's license exam, but it's a live stream. Alex Adler, any meetups planned in Bangkok in January or February? Can do. Yeah, can do. We've talked about this on Patreon before. Thank you for everybody who supports us on Patreon. We have done Patreon meetups, but always just one-on-one. Somebody shoots me a message on Patreon and asks if I can meet up. The answer is almost always yes, at least for an hour here or there. But in terms of doing a public meetup, those scare me a little bit. 2 years ago, I would have been fine at that. Since we started the channel, like, I'm just writing constantly, and I've gotten so like, it's so hard for me to socialize now. I just don't know how to interact with people because I'm just in my cave writing 8,000 words a day all the time. And when I'm not doing that, I'm working on edits. But yeah, we should do it. It would be fun to do. I don't know how to, yes, let me think about it. Stay tuned. I'll talk to Mary, who is our sort of administrator, who's over in the UK, about maybe organizing this through the website somehow. I should promote the website now, but I don't remember the address. OTRontheroad.com, I think. I'll organize something. I can't promise January or February because it just comes down to production schedule. My main rule is just the videos come first. If we're kind of up against the clock on trying to get a video out, I don't do anything else. But if we are making good progress on the series from Lao and we get ahead, it's not going to be something where I think we'll be able to have a lot of advance notice. But yeah, I'd be happy to do something like that. But again, yeah, thank you so much to everybody who supports us on Patreon. We'll definitely do a Patreon meetup coming up soon. That is, like, I cannot express how helpful Patreon is for creators like us. Okay, Vipul asks, a video on post-Soviet food in Thailand, please. Well, that might be possible because we are going to be filming in Phuket again this coming year. We have one video that we promised to make, and we've we're gonna go back to Phuket in June when we go every year for the race. And so yeah, I think that all of us would have fun making the video on post-Soviet food here. It would be a complicated theme to cover because there's just so much, that's related to the people who left because of mobilization. And so we'd get into a lot of geopolitics in that video, but that's always, I roll my eyes like I don't want to do that. That's exactly what I want to do with our videos. So that would be a fun one to take on. I know we would have fun eating the food for those videos. It would be, and also, like, it's cool to, I know what was it? Was it the Tajik restaurant that was just kind of off in the middle of nowhere and didn't have any business, but the food was just mind blowing. And like, one of the real cool things about doing videos like this is we get to kind of shine a spotlight on places that deserve more customers. And so yeah, hopefully, that would be the kind of place that I'd really like to put on camera because they deserve it. And also, again, we have to eat the food that we put in the videos. And so Daria is coming over. Do we have an emergency? Last message in the chat. Oh, Chinese cooking demystified. Hey, food history quiz night. Let's do it. Oh gosh. Hey, Chris. So it's funny, like, all right, side tangent number 2. I used to host a pub quiz forever. There was a short time where that was my only source of income. I was paid in pizza and like $50 a week. And I was living on that for a short time, hosting a bar quiz. And then when I moved to China, I kind of brought that to my restaurants. We started doing pub quizzes. I have so many, like, in my old laptop, I would have, 15 years of pub quiz questions. But like, I actually think about that it's crazy how these things in your past inform what you do in the present. For me, like, I will actively think about my days hosting pub quiz when we are writing an OTR video, especially these, like, the big ones, the history of, potatoes or rice or whatever. Because the way I used to do those pub quizzes was, whatever you come across in your everyday, existence, like a TV show you're watching or a book that you're reading, or like somewhere that if I travel somewhere, something that you come across that's interesting, you just sort of flag it and like, I'm going to make a question out of that because it's cool. That's a cool fact. And you start thinking in terms of, like, you hear something and it registers as I'm going to put that in a pub quiz. And then when it comes to making these videos, sometimes it's the same thing that you're sort of looking out for, which is, my first step in the process of researching these things. Like right now in the back, we've got a few, like there's always 2 or 3 of these, the history of chili pepper or curry, whatever, that we're working on. And the first step in the process is just getting a bunch of books or essays or whatever, research papers, and just reading with no kind of preconceived idea of what story you're going to be telling. You just read and see what's interesting. And my pub quiz radar is constantly going off when I'm doing, and I'm like, highlighting things, or like if it's digital, I'll copy and paste it into one gigantic file of just cool facts. And then in the end, you just have all of your cool facts, and you sort of figure out, how do I find a way to work these into this video? Because these are what struck me as being the kinds of things that I would want to tell my friends at a bar. These are the kinds of things that I think would make good pub quiz questions. So I'm actually actively thinking about pub quizzes while I'm writing some of our more research heavy videos. So yeah, I would absolutely, like, the idea of doing an OTR meetup might be intimidating to me, just because I have this fear of socializing after not being in public for so long, except for on filming days. But I could host a pub quiz. We could do an OTR pub quiz in a second. Let's do it. Daria, you want to do it as like a fundraiser for Soy Dog Foundation or something like that? I feel like we need like music in the background so it's not awkward when I take a sip of wine. Like, there's just this silence to let the last point sink in. Okay, next one. Jareth Lee asks, do you guys plan on making a video about food in Rayong or Hua Hin anytime soon? Would love to watch it. Maybe. Hua Hin is a question. I mean, again, it's just about priorities. I don't know enough about Hua Hin to put it ahead of other places that we have a list of places that are a mile long that I want to film. And does that trip take precedence over, we haven't even shot in Chiang Mai yet, just here in Thailand. We haven't done Chiang Rai. We haven't filmed a single show in Isan. Like, I want to do, we have a fishing village we really want to film at in Ko Chang. I want to go to the Cambodian border in like Ubon Ratchathani. There is just so much interesting stuff out there in places that we want to tape that does Hua Hin penetrate that list soon. I don't know. If there's something that draws us down there, then yeah, I'd be open to it. Rayong is a different story, because I already mentioned Dennis, who's our videographer, our lead director. Dennis and Carol live in Rayong. Like, they're literally, that's where they live. And so we're working kind of, back and forth online. And then on edit day, I'll go down there, or Dennis will come up here. And so we've kind of been talking about, like, it'd be cool to film something here. Like, so hopefully, like, I've kind of tasked Dennis with making contacts and connections. That's not one that I'm going to be able to do a lot of back end work on, because Dennis is down there and he's Thai. So it's easy for him to kind of integrate himself into the community. So Dennis is kind of, I hope, in the background, working on what might potentially one day be a Rayong video. I would say the likelihood of a Hua Hin video is not huge anytime soon. The likelihood of a Rayong video is substantially higher. That would be my answer, but you never know. I mean, again, like, sometimes I don't know what we're going to shoot. I didn't know we were going to make that coffee video, 2 weeks ago, until like 2 days before we filmed it. And then it was just sort of like, oh, like, we have this gap. We need to get something filmed. We have these free days. What can we do in this short time period that's something interesting that's here within Bangkok? And like, I literally think about it sometimes in terms of just like, well, we've done this history kind of video. We did this sort of profile video. What have we not done in a while? We haven't done a road trip in a while. Let's do a road trip. And so, yeah, that was just like, that came together quickly. Maybe Hua Hin will as well. Russell Swan, any chance of a China video, perhaps a collab with the Chinese Cooking Demystified crew, now that they are moving back? You're going to break my heart bringing that up. Yeah, sad to see them go from here. But I'm sure we will see each other pretty soon once they're on the other side of the border. A China trip is complicated for me for a lot of reasons. I don't know. Again, I didn't leave China with the very best feelings towards, what the country is right now. I have nothing but positive feelings towards Chinese people, towards the food culture, but I don't know. It's complicated. It's something I'll need to kind of wrap my head around whether I'm ready to do a series like that. I was there for 12 years, and the first 10 were great. The last 2 were not. I don't know. Again, we do pick and choose locations in part, based on what we want to do, because it's so much work and a huge financial outlay to travel and film as well. China's a possibility. It's a gold mine of history and stories and food. You know, I would love to do something with Steph and Chris once they're settled up there. And I've actually considered whether that would, you know, give them a year to kind of get their bearings, and then to come up and just do a video where they could just show us around, you know, their new home, because it's an interesting part of the country. I really like Yunnan, but the other part of it is, again, I you know, if I was, you know, typical generic YouTube cell phone walking around filming, I would feel completely comfortable going to China and taping. We show up like a film crew, you know, especially like our road team. If it's Dennis, Carol, Daria, and I, like there's like a huge amount of equipment. You know, we look like a film crew when we're out taping a YouTube video, and China is, even though I do speak Chinese and I feel comfortable in some places where people would be understanding, and China has a massive internet culture where, like, when you own a restaurant, I had 16 restaurants in China. Like, you're used to people walking in filming. That's like, you want that. You know, Chinese food internet consumption is much higher than anywhere else I've ever been on Chinese platforms. But like, as a foreigner right now in this climate, under the current leadership, walking around with a camera crew it's a risk, and I don't know right now whether that's the right time. But one day I would love to do it. And if you've never watched, if you want to learn anything about Chinese food, I don't need to do anything on Chinese food. You have Chris and Steph; they've got it covered. Bella's Bone says, "I love the deep dive into cuisine. Can you throw a recipe on the screen when you do when you're talking about making foundational dishes?" You know, we thought about doing that, but the thing is, like, first of all, a lot of cooks are really welcoming and happy to tell their story, but it gets a little different when you start asking them for their secrets and their recipes. So we stay away from that topic typically. Like, if they'll volunteer information about what they're cooking, like, then we're happy to, you know, I'll use that usually in the video. But, you know, when we're visiting a place and grandma's making something that has been in her family for a long time, I think part of the reason we have that trust is that, and they're willing to open up to us, is that we don't try to, you know, even when we're filming in the kitchen, we make it clear that we're not going to film step 1, step 2, step 3 in sequence. You know, that we're going to be getting the sexy shots. You know, we're going to make you look as good as we can. We're going to film those beautiful, like, slow motion 180 FPS, you know, scooping shots and somebody stirring a wok and the steam coming up. But, like, we're not going to show you step by step how to make their dish, and they really appreciate that. And so I don't know if you know, I don't want to put the pressure on ourselves to say, yeah, we're going to start including recipes in these videos, because I don't really feel comfortable in every situation asking for those recipes. But I'm happy to at least take your question under advisement. I understand that people really want that stuff. I do too. I really do. There are some of these I wish I could recreate, but then that's the magic in going to these places. I sometimes, you know, I don't want to know all the time. Like, I want that feeling of this is magic, because food's not magic. Like, you know, we pretend as chefs that it's a magic trick, but it's just a recipe. Like, anybody can do anything. You know, if you follow exactly the same steps with the same equipment, you can do anything. And for me, part of the magic of food is sort of still believing in Santa Claus, you know, still kind of like going to a place and just not having any understanding of how it's done. And I personally don't always want to know. I'm happy to not know. And I understand that you watching would be very unhappy with me for saying that, because you see this and you're not in my shoes. You're not in that restaurant. You can't taste it. So you want that recipe. I understand. But, like, I hope you can hear kind of from my perspective why I stay away from asking for those sometimes. But yeah, noted. The same person asks, is Bangkok now you and Daria's permanent home? Permanent is a word that once you've lived abroad for as long as we have, you stay away from. We have just signed a 2-year extension on our home where we live right now. So this is definitely our home for the next 2 years. We are here legally. We have, you know, OTR is a legal Thai company. We have a legal, you know, residence in this country. We're very happy here. Is this home permanently? I think that, you know, we are at some point going to have the itch to get out and explore a little bit more. I think for the next 2 years, Bangkok's home. After that, we'll see. We love it here. We're happy here. I mean, just last week we were just on the other side of the river. We had a day where we had some free time, and we just went to go explore. And we ended up finding this glass factory, and now we bought a whole bunch. I don't have any here on the table in within reach, but like bought all these amazing sort of handmade glasses at this. I mean, it's just, you find these secrets everywhere in Bangkok, and it's super cool. And like, yeah, we're really happy here. It would take a lot for us to move, but the channel comes first. And if it makes sense for us to be somewhere else as a home base for a while, we will. But Bangkok's always going to be a big part of our lives. And I think that if we do leave, we would probably, have a set amount of time, then we'd want to come back. Dermot Grace, what are the chances of a collaboration with Kenji? It's Kenji Lopez Alt or Adam Ragusia. You're all in a similar Venn diagram with the Roman cook and Chinese cooking demystified, so perhaps it's possible. Hey, look, I mean, again, hey, Kenji or Adam, if you're watching this live stream, shoot us a message. We're open to it. I think we have our first donation sent. You can't call it a donation. It makes it sound like this is a telethon. What do you call this? Show of support. I always forget when we do these that people actually send money, which is crazy, and it does make me feel a little bit like this is OnlyFans, but it's awesome. Thank you so much. This is from Spartan Storm. NOK, is that Norwegian kroner? Did I get that right? I think that's Norwegian kroner or krone. I can't remember from when I was in Norway last. But thank you, Spartan Storm. Amazing. Thank you. That makes my night. Everybody who, I don't know. Anyway, well, thank you. It means a lot to us. Where was I? Kenji Lopez Alt and Adam Ragusia. It's funny. I have an idea for, we don't like to do collabs just for the sake of doing collabs. Because again, it's like, what are we going to talk about? We're just two guys doing a video, but we've had a couple of big channels, a guy named Adam Witt, who's based in Chicago. And very recently on the channel, we had a really cool shout out from a massive channel, which is Andy Cooks, who is, I don't remember where he is, Australia or something like that. I apologize if I'm wrong. But it blows me away that channels even know who we are, because we're still so new. Yeah, I mean, again, anybody comes to me and says they have an idea, let's work together on it. My answer is 100%. Yeah, let's do. Let's just it all just comes down to the idea. But yeah, I mean, again, if you're putting us in a Venn diagram with those guys, that's a Venn diagram I'm thrilled to be included in. So thank you so much for saying that. Cooking stream. This is Reggie. Congrats on 200,000 subscriptions. Cooking stream coming up. That's something that we have actually thought about, is that one of these days, let's do something where I actually cook. I didn't want to do it at first because number one, that's not the purpose of this channel at all. And, because our focus is on Asian. So in the beginning, our focus was specifically pretty much on Thai food. And I was new here. And so for me to be hey, watch how you make this, when I just arrived in Thailand, felt so disingenuous, when I could just show you somebody who actually know how to make something properly. But yeah, as a live streamer, as a cool little side note, I have a couple of recipes that I would dust off. We could do a 7-hour live stream and I'll make you my beef rendang one day. I've actually thought about doing that. There would be enough downtime where I'd just be standing there stirring. I could be making rendang right now. And so, yeah, I would do a cooking stream. That's something I've considered, and I'm sure we'll do it. Actually, to be honest, the main reason why we didn't, I proposed this to Boris a few months ago. I can't remember what the video was, but there was an angle where I was like, this is the one where I can cook. It makes sense for me to cook. And we actually looked at how to do, I forgot, what was the video that we were talking about doing that? And Boris pointed out something that I hadn't even considered, which is that my kitchen here in the house is, there's no island in the middle. everything is pushed up against, it's like, if you watch our potato video, you can see my kitchen. I'm making the tuna in there. And like everything I do when I'm cooking, I'm facing the wall, you know, so there's two gigantic counters that are both up against the wall. And so the camera would be either next to me or behind me. There's this, I couldn't do it like without getting a big kitchen island put in the middle. I remember that was the reason why we didn't do it, was because logistically it was just going to look not very good. And so, yeah. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a live stream, you know, nothing looks very good. I'm going to have my wine, play the music. Next question. Bernard Lockman, any plans for Lunar New Year special? No, because I've thought about this. The first year we were doing the channel, I was like, oh, let's do things holiday specific. But then sometimes our videos take like an ungodly amount of time to put together. Like, you know, so we film something. If we're going to basically like with our workflow, you know, we have 3 videos usually going simultaneously at different stages of the edit process. And like, you know, again, the pho video, the most recent one we put up, we filmed at the beginning of October. We didn't actually have time to edit it until the 7 days leading up to when it went online. And so it was just sort of like, well, we'll break down the tape. I'll transcribe the quotes. We'll send off the Vietnamese for translation. And then, yeah, like the problem isn't the idea of doing a holiday special. It's that we would have to film it like weeks in advance. So basically like for, when is Lunar New Year this year? Is it January? End of January. So basically like we would need to film now. Like we would need to make our Christmas shooting something that we're already specific to Chinese New Year, or sorry, Lunar New Year. And then if we did something on Songkran, which would be amazing because like, you know, I wanted to go to, we were invited to come back to Sangklaburi. There's Koh Kret in Bangkok. There's these ethnic Mon areas that do their Tingyan, their Lunar New Year celebration a week after, you know, Songkran. And their celebration is amazing. It's so interesting, you know, and like we've been invited to come and tape something like this. And I would love to do it. But the problem is we film it and I'm going to post it in like what, end of March. And it's just like, you know, what do I put it in the can until next year? Or are we the last people to the party to actually post something, you know, from Lunar New Year this year? So yeah, the issue is just like our edit time is pretty intense, and the writing time is, I mean, again, each video is like up to 14, 15 drafts before I'm ready to put it out there. You know, we're just constantly like, our first draft, when we finish filming, I can immediately write a script, but the script sucks. And so to get something that's not very good and make it into the video that we're proud of and can put out there takes a ton of time and a lot of work. And that time is variable. I can't say, okay, we have a week, you know, let's turn this around in a week, because in a week it might not be good enough. And maybe we need another week. And by that point, like, yeah, so either we film now to put it online during Songkran, or we film during Songkran and put it online a month later. In either way, it just didn't come across as ideal. I think OTR is going to have to be more focused on evergreen kind of content, because we're just not very good at turning things around quickly enough. All right, Matthew Sinclair. I'm in a catering course in a UK college. In February, we're taking a 2-week trip to Bangkok. Are there any restaurants or other things you would recommend for especially catering related educational value? All right, probably yes. Our Instagram is otr.offtherails, which I talked about this in our last live stream, but that was just, you know, again, we didn't know what OTR stood for. We had a few ideas on the road, off the record, off the rails. So I registered the YouTube as OTR on the road. Daria registered the Instagram as OTR off the rails. We didn't catch it for weeks. But yeah, OTR.offtherails is our Instagram. Send us a message, Matthew, and I'll look out for it. And give me some time to think about it. Just remind me, write the question again and send it on Instagram, and I'll do my best to see if I can think of 1 or 2 places that you might want to come to. All right, Bella's Bone, can you throw us a recipe once in a while? Just addressed that question a little while ago. Crixtis. Google pins of the food stops, please. Something to add to my bucket list. It's on every video. Not the first few from like 2022, but yeah, like we've done 86 videos, probably the last 75 of them. Check the comments. The top comment I always pin. So it'll always be the first comment that shows up when you open the video. That's the Google map pins of everywhere that you saw on camera. So every single one of our videos should have Google map pins for the location. You did the episode on sriracha, but could you dedicate one to chili peppers? We did that as well. Go back and check our YouTube page, the history of chili peppers. That was the first one of those history of videos that we ever did. Has anyone told you or Chris from Chinese Cooking Demystified that you both kind of sound alike in your voiceovers in your videos? Yes, every week. And Chris gets those comments too. It's crazy how many people are just like, hey, this is the guy from Chinese Cooking Demystified. Didn't know what he looked like. I'm like, no, it's not me. Maybe like, again, Chris and I, if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen some of our older videos or you didn't watch our last live stream, we've known each other for now 14 years. We're, about as close friends as you can be, so maybe we've just rubbed off on each other from just talking food for the last 14 years. But like, I think more likely we're just, people of the same age from the same general geographic region. I'm from Virginia. He's from Pennsylvania. So like similar regional diction. Typically when you see Americans in Asia, they're 75% from California. So they don't talk exactly like us. I don't know, I can hear the difference. But it seems like it's interesting that we keep hearing that from so many people. It makes me laugh. Of all the people that they're going to say, I got compared to Tucker Carlson in the last video. That one, I wasn't thrilled with that comparison. It wasn't like an insulting comment. It was just like, hey, this guy sounds like Tucker Carlson. That if you don't know who Tucker Carlson is, don't worry about it. I think Chris is easily the guy that I get compared to vocally the most by far. Number two is Nile Red, who's a science YouTuber. I get that like every video will get somebody, hey, this guy sounds like Nile Red. And I watched one of his videos to see the comparison. I guess so. Like, it's not an insult, so I don't, it's sure. I could do worse. Like if that's what my voice triggers for you, fine. All right. So Clinton Chan asks, hey, what's the 2025 roadmap like? Any specific focus on more big videos or small, etc.? Well, so, okay. I'm going to take this in two different parts. The roadmap, the only thing that we know absolutely locked in for sure is we're going to do one video, probably 2 videos in Kuala Lumpur. And then we have we've been invited on a sailboat in October to the old Spice Islands in Indonesia, which is just like, I hope one of the guys from Australia who invited us to come along on this trip is watching this to see how excited I am about this. But beyond that, at some point we're going to do Sumatra for sure. We've got all these big ideas of places. Hong Kong is high on the list, but like big videos or small videos. I mean, 2023 we did like, I think I'm just going from memory, but I think in 2023 we did 37 videos for the full year. The average length of the videos was about like 26 to 28 minutes probably. And if you'd asked me at the time, like if you asked me a year ago what 2024 would look like, I would have said it's probably going to be similar. And then just, we just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then this year we've done 26 videos. So exactly one every 2 weeks. But the average length of time is like 50% longer than it was. So we're basically making like Sundance length documentaries all the time. And I love it. I love doing the big ones. Like it's just so much fun to not be restricted by anything and just to tell the story, as much as we want to. It depends on the meaning of big videos. Big meaning time, big meaning big concept, like the history of whatever. I think like every 4 or 5 videos, I'm going to work in one of those, the history of something, because people like them and respond to them. And it's a very, very different challenge from my side than run and gun kind of shooting and telling a story that way. Again, my priority, the things that I most enjoy about making videos are ones like the one we just did on Don Duck. There was, I think, 3 or 4 videos ago, we released this one. The first one we taped in Hanoi. That was something that if I could make all the videos like that, I would, where you just find somebody with an incredible story and you just let them tell their story and like record it. And that to me is the most valuable thing that we do, you know, because those are stories that if we don't tell them, nobody's going to tell them. And the one on Le Delat is like that for me. The one we did on mussel noodles. Those are the first ones that come to mind. We've done a few others like that. Those are the most meaningful ones from my perspective. The hard part is finding those stories. Like we find one, we do it, you know, but like those stories, you know, unless somebody presents them to us, we don't know. We just, you know, it's so whenever we find a story like that, that's just so compelling that we just want to let that person tell their story, that's going to be the video that we'll make. But other than that, yeah, I mean, again, it depends on the meaning of big versus small. I don't know. You know, again, we're week by week. We'll see what's out there and whatever kind of grabs our attention and what we find interesting. And then if that's our only rule is we tell the stories that we want to tell. And if it's interesting for us, then we do it, you know, and that's still the rule that we're going to follow this coming year. Beyond that, I have no rules or ideas, except I'm super excited to see the channel keep getting bigger and more chances to broaden our scope and tell some epic stories. And also, again, working with Dennis and Carol and now Ian, the new guy, opens up so much in terms of just their you know, skills from behind the camera. Like, you know, you see interviews sometimes in sports with people who are just like, yeah, I find myself on the field just watching this guy because he's so good at what he does, or she's so good at what she does, you know. And that for me is like working with you know, these amazing top level directors and videographers. Like when I go out and I shoot with Dennis, like when we were filming, you know, in Laos in the last few days, because again, we just came back like 2-3 days ago from Vientiane. Like I find myself sometimes just sort of like, you know, I don't know what story I'm going to tell, but your videography, your footage looks so incredible. I will find a way to make that into a story because I just want that to be seen. Like, you know, what I'm most excited about the next year is seeing how our channel can grow and develop thanks to the work of Dennis and Carol and hopefully Ian as well coming on board now, really elevating sort of the visuals of what we're doing. It's super exciting to me. Like it's just something that for me, you know, I'm a cook. Like you know, before that I was a sportscaster. Like I don't think visually or have the ability to tell a story, you know, that incredibly well and beautifully, other than just with words. And so having now, like, you know, these amazing directors and videographers who are bringing their own talents to the stories that we're trying to tell, that makes me really excited to take on, you know, every project from big to small, because I know it's going to come out looking incredible. Have you thought about, this is James Blackwell, have you thought about exploring the history of fermentation, or perhaps beginning with fish sauce? You know how I just said a few minutes ago, that's, you know, we always have a few stories that we're working on in the background, that like these history of things. Pardon, I'm going to pause for 2 seconds. You can hear my voice starting. I'm just going to drink water for a second. Didn't even make it an hour without the voice starting to go. So yeah, we always have these videos that we're working on in the background, and then usually after a few months, we're ready and we can make it into a video. There are 2 that I started working on like 2 years ago, and I'm still not ready because I just don't know what story we're telling. And those are fish sauce and fish cakes. You know, I would love to do a video on the history of fish sauce. I think I kind of by now have some picture or understanding of what the story is, but like every time I think that I've got it figured out, like the point of origin, or at least like how it started to spread and how these different cultures kind of all adapted it, I find out something else that just ruins everything I thought I knew. And I would do the story of fish sauce. I just personally don't know it. I don't know. I don't know what I would do with that story because I don't understand it. Again, like history is a really complicated subject that you have to be right. Honestly, like, are we always right with everything that we say? Probably not. But we're confident enough that everything that we put into the video is at least verifiable in a way that we feel confident in presenting publicly. Like, I'll stand behind. We have a really, really intense and rigorous like process for verifying stuff before we put it in the video, because like the last thing I want is to be wrong, because to me, like, you just say something and you get the facts. If I present something to you as the history of something and I'm wrong about it, or if I'm wrong because I'm careless, then it sort of throws the whole channel kind of out the window for being like, we lose our credibility. And so we're really careful on facts. And there's a lot of cool stuff that I wish we could cover, but we just cut it from a video. Like there's the rice video, I remember specifically, there was an entire section that would have been the most exciting part of that video that I just, in the end, after we taped it to camera, I just kept having these doubts, and I just wasn't, the side digression. One thing that's gotten really frustrating about research is, like, okay, the classic, you want to verify something with multiple sources. Okay, you verify something with multiple sources. Now, the problem is, people, there have been a few things that we found, and then at this rice one, I remember why I canned this section is I was just, something triggered me to look again at these books that I found this information in. And I'm not intentionally not telling you what it was. I can't remember. This is a long time ago now, but I felt like a college professor realizing that, like, oh, this is just a copy paste. This isn't like multiple verifications of the same topic. This is somebody wrote something and then somebody else was just lazy and just copied verbatim what that first person had written and put it in their own work. And then you start seeing that same thing everywhere, where like things are popping up, and you start seeing these, like, what do they call it? Like strings of phrases and words that just tell you, oh, this isn't independent verification. This is just a copy and paste of the same thing. We still don't know. So that's really, really, really frustrating. It makes it so much harder to actually be ready to go to air. But that's a long way of saying fish sauce. Yes, would love to. Garum, I see you guys talking about that in the comments. Garum would be interesting. The whole story of fish sauce is interesting. I don't know enough about it to be confident in doing a video on the history, because the history is just so all over the map and it's complete mess. And one day we'll do it, but that day is not today. Aaron Who says, do you think you can come back and live in the States after experience living abroad in Asia? Every time I land back into LAX, I get a little bit of depression. No, I don't. I understand that feeling very well. There's a pace of life here that, like, I've adapted. I feel so out of place and foreign back home. And I'm a foreigner in the US now, or in the West. It's just the speed, it's the pace of life, it's the energy, and like this ability to kind of just do something. Like, in China, it's like, I don't have any money, I'm going to open a restaurant. Cool. Rent a place for nothing, renovate it yourself. Don't get a license, just buy a carton of cigarettes for the license guy and slide it to him under the table, and like then just do it. And if it fails, okay, you lost nothing, or at least not enough to put you out of business. The energy and the ability to kind of do something yourself, and then just the noise and the traffic and the smells and the food and the cost of living, and like, I love it. I'm at home in Asia. Asia makes sense to me. China made sense to me. Thailand makes sense to me. The United States doesn't make sense to me, but we were there for the first time in 8 years in October this year. And I really enjoyed it. Like, good to see family, good to catch up with old friends. You know, there are things I miss about living in the States. Like, you know, I was joking about the Green Day concert we're going to go to. That is so rare. I'm not even a huge Green Day fan, but like a concert, like a big rock concert in Thailand that's not K-pop, like that's just, it doesn't. Jack White came a couple of years ago, and like, you know, that's it. Like, Morrissey was supposed to come and then he canceled. That's all that happens here. And like, you know, tonight's Sunday night, so it's 9 p.m. I'm 4 hours away from kickoff of the NFL, which I'm going to watch, you know, at 1 o'clock this morning, you know, and like being in the States and just, oh, let's go to a Capitals game. We just get tickets and go to the game, and we're there, and there's Alex Ovechkin, like in person, not just, you know, on TV streaming on off my laptop through HDMI at 6 o'clock in the morning. That was just like, oh, the world is real. Like, you know, and I miss live music. I miss being able to go to, you know, Daria's a big concert buff as well, you know, and the last big concert we went to together was David Byrne from the Talking Heads in 2018, like 2018. And I used to go to big concerts like weekly. And so, you know, there are things that I loved Chicago. Like, Chicago was great. I could live in Chicago, to be honest. It was cool. Like, it was expensive. Like, we need a few more viewers to put us at a financial level where we could consider, you know, more than 5 days in Chicago. But like, no, Chicago was cool. There are good things about the West for sure, and there are things that we definitely lose out on by being here. And I can see why people find their own happiness in different places, and there is a quality of life over there that's really cool. And in some ways, I'm jealous of my friends who have that, you know, that life that they've chosen to live. You know, it'd be nice to be closer to family and to be able to see my friends more than once a decade. But I'm almost 15 years in age, like really like getting close to 15 years now here. And this makes sense to me. I get it here, and this is my speed, you know? So no, I think it would be a hard adjustment for me going back West. That's for sure. Steve Jones, I'd be interested in seeing a video about Eastern Thai cuisine, as very few people talk about that as a separate entity, and it was a surprise to me until recently too. The first place that I want to film, I assume when you say Eastern, you mean Eastern, not like Northeastern. We're not talking about Isan, I guess. Like if we're talking about Isan, you know, that's a separate answer. I assume when you say Eastern Thai cuisine, you mean that sort of coastal Eastern strip in between Bangkok and Cambodia. I agree. There's a restaurant in Bangkok that me and Daria really liked when we moved here called Sri Chat. And it was, I remember just being so blown away by this incredibly creative chef. I think, forgive me if you watched the first live stream, I feel like I almost said this word for word. It might've been on a Patreon one though. So like, I remember just being so in awe of this incredible chef. And, you know, he had these crazy ideas from Sri Chat, like barracuda salad with raw cabbage and peanut brittle and like a lime citrus dressing. Like, this made no sense, but it worked and it was incredible. Or a masaman curry made with young durian. And then, so I'm like, oh, what a chef, what an amazing, like, you know, job by this chef. And then then me and Daria went on a road trip east, and we went to Chanthaburi, and that was the food. It's like we sit down in a restaurant, and that's the food. It's the food from this street truck. It's actually the cuisine of this city. And that just blew my mind, that like this obscure, random, wild flavor combinations wasn't some like chef's imagination. It's the cuisine of Chanthaburi. And so I actually have a friend who's right now working on the Cambodian border in the Far East, and I've got him making contacts for me with fishermen, and like he's actually kind of stringing for me right now and like figuring out what we could theoretically film. Short answer, Steve, is yes. Would love to explore it. Chanthaburi is the first priority, and then to work our way east. We had this idea of doing a Chanthaburi and Trot trip, but then Trot was a little bit of a disappointment itself, because it wasn't a disappointment, but I don't know what the population there used to be, but now it's just an Isan town. Like, all the food there that we could find is Isan. So we really need to explore and kind of understand where to go and what to do. I want to go to Ubon Ratchathani because that's interesting. It's still technically Isan, you know, in terms of the general culinary influences, but it's different. And yeah, Eastern Thai cuisine starting in Chanthaburi is that will happen in 2025. I can guarantee you that is something that we will do this coming year. That's for sure. Okay, Kimmy, na Ayutthaya. In some of your videos, the music gets so loud, and then when you start talking again, the sound gets so soft. Can you fix that so there's not much volume change between music and voice? Some of that is internal EQ on YouTube. Some of that is it's a really hard balance to strike, because it also sometimes things sound differently. When I'm trying to evaluate where our sound levels are, I will watch on my my Lenovo laptop. I'll watch on my Apple laptop. I'll watch connected to my TV. I'll listen with earphones, and the sound will be slightly different on all of those mediums. And so audio is hard. We do our best with it. Like, we really, really, really intensely do our best with audio levels. But then, like, yeah, there'll be sometimes where we'll kind of come to a consensus of, okay, this is where we're going to put it. We have every millisecond of every OTR video, we are pouring over it. Like, we do our best. I'm incredibly anal about this, and Dennis is too. We're like, every frame of every video we're really careful with it. But like, yeah, that drives me crazy sometimes, where I'll go in and then watch it. I'll put it on YouTube and I'll watch it. Be like, it sounds like shit, and I don't know why. And like, it's just maybe I don't know. We're doing our best with it. But yes, some of it just comes down to what computer you're watching something on, or what connection you have, or I don't know. Yeah, anyway, yeah, I just see a little comment on there's a stable audio option on YouTube. As a listener, turn it off. That's great advice. Yeah, don't have your stable audio option turned on. We don't ever. How about a collab with Tasting History with Max Miller? Absolutely. Max, balls in your court. Is there a music culture associated with Thai cuisine similar to Cajun or Creole culture? That's a hard question. Not that I would say is strictly associated with food. And by the way, on that note, on a separate answer that's not really related to that question, but we do get, since we're talking about music already, some people sometimes ask us why we don't use more Thai music in our videos when we're talking about Thai food, or like if we're doing a Vietnamese food video, why don't we do specifically Vietnamese music? And the answer is really simple, which is copyright law. We only use music that we're legally allowed to use. That's it. Like, I understand that there are some gray areas because not all Asian countries' copyrights are valid or enforced in the United States, which is where YouTube is judging copyrights. But I don't know. Like, to me, if music's copyrighted, we're just not going to use it. We use a subscription service called Soundstripe. If you want to know our music, you can check out Soundstripe. You'll find the library of songs there. I've tried every major music copyright licensing program. There's a lot of good ones out there, but very few of them have any kind of Asian anything. Soundstripe is the best. Soundstripe's headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee. So like, why do we use country music sometimes? Because their country music library is amazing. And so it's easy for me to find stuff that fits the mood that I want to, music is, I don't really care about being authentic with music in terms of where that music comes from. Music sets a mood, and I'm trying my best to use our music to set the mood that I want you to feel when you're watching the video. Would I love to have more access to amazing Asian music to use? Of course. Soundstripe is the best that I can find. I can't remember the name. There's an even bigger music licensing software service than Soundstripe, but it is and they have a good Asian archive, 100% of it is Japanese, and like noticeably Japanese, very Japanese sounding. Soundstripe has like a very limited library, but there's a little bit more range of different kind of feels and tones and instruments, and so that's what we use. It's the best that we can. It's the best that we can do. You know, you wonder why every YouTube channel sounds like the music is the same, because most don't pay for it. It's expensive. I paid like, it's not going to bankrupt us, but I think our music licensing costs me like, I don't know, $100 a month or something like that, just to be able to use the songs that we use in our videos, and clear its use in all of our content. You can do it for free through YouTube's internal music licensing. And so why do all YouTube videos sound the same? You know, you can imagine the sound that I'm explaining without me singing it. I haven't had enough wine yet to start singing. But yeah, that's because you have the option of using internal YouTube music library. That stuff sucks. I won't touch it. If I turn on a video and there's YouTube library music, I just immediately won't finish that video. Okay. One of my favorite, this is Steve Jones again, one of my favorite OTR videos is the top 10 dishes for the team. Maybe it'd be interesting to revisit that at this point for an easier video, which doesn't need much filming. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually was thinking about doing something like that. I had this idea of just sort of doing like, yeah, something along those lines coming up fairly soon, especially if we have some people who are out of town and traveling. Like if Dennis and Carol and Ian and everybody's just unavailable to really put much time into production, for example, during Songkran or during the Lunar New Year, then I would do that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, to answer your question, Steve, let's do it. Pardon me for 2 seconds. Let me kill this glass of wine. All right, let's keep going. Just reading through this next question. Clinton Chan, have you successfully shown a gluten-free or vegetarian friend around Bangkok with my broken Thai? His family are finally ready to give Thailand a try, but they have a lot of, I guess, vegetarian or gluten-free tendencies. Thailand's not hard. China was hard. You know, showing vegetarian friends or family around China was really, 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 really hard. That because in China it's like, oh yeah, this is a vegetarian dish, you know, and you'll ask in Chinese to the cook, like, is this vegetarian? Of course it's vegetarian. It's cooked in pork fat. Like, you know, that's a thing that doesn't, you know, that doesn't really, it's a concept that's very, very, very difficult to attain, to the point that my vegetarian family members just decided to give up on it for their time visiting in China. Thailand, yeah, especially in Bangkok. I think in the smaller towns and countryside, it would be a lot harder. You know, it depends how strict somebody is. Fish sauce is going to be added to a lot of things. But Bangkok, the vegan food scene here is great. Like one of our very, very, very first videos ever was on Santia Sok. That's worth a trip for anybody. The Chatuchak cafeteria that we filmed in our video on J Festival and vegan food. A lot of cool young chefs doing interesting things. Gluten-free, I couldn't answer because I don't, you know, I'm not insulting anybody who's gluten-free, because celiac disease is a very serious thing. But if a dish is listed as gluten-free on the menu, I am probably leaving and going to another restaurant. Jeff Susi says, love your channel. How do you go about researching your videos? Well, it's different video to video, but yeah, the first step, as I was saying earlier, just starts with coming in with no preconceptions. I don't start with an idea of the story I want to tell, unless it's a story that I want to tell, unless it's like, you know, if we know what the video is already, like, again, to use the most recent example of the pho video, well, we know we're doing the story on pho as it relates to this town. Okay, now I have a starting point. I know what I need to be able to fill in, what blanks I need to fill in with the research, because that's just framing what this video is already going to be. You know, I need to give you context of where we are and what story we're telling. That's very targeted and specific research. But in our broader videos, like, you know, the history of videos, or even if we're like taking a specific dish and doing one on, you know, on Masaman curry or on anything like that, Yeah, it just starts with, let me get my hands. The first step is usually I'll try and find any college papers, essays or dissertations or theses on a topic. And it's not because I care about what that student wrote, it's because they use citations. And so, that's an easy way to just get a whole bunch of reading material right away, from the citations in a college paper. And there's always like everything that has citations. Go to Wikipedia, click on the things at the bottom of the page, which are citations, are going to lead you to books and things to start with. So the first step is just a giant amount of reading material. And then you just start, I'll put a document together that's about 100 pages of just things I find interesting. And then, like I've told this story a bunch before, but Daria is always keeping me sort of sane on this front where, I don't get too carried away with research, because if I do, it stops being watchable. We're still making entertainment. I still need to be making something that you enjoy watching. And if I overload you with facts and information, then it all starts to run together. So the last step in our edit process is always me and Daria just watching the video, and after I've completed our final draft. And sometimes she'll literally just be like, my eyes glazed over. It was too much. And so we'll just go back and trim it down. And so really what I'm looking for in my first step in the research is just stuff that is really interesting, like the most interesting stuff. And then the second step is to find out, is the hardest part is the next step, which is, okay, these things that I think are the most interesting, are they factual? Are they relevant? That's a ton of work. Because then you really do need to, even if you don't put it in the video, you need to understand the full timeline of something, and to make sure that it fits in context and you're telling a completed story. But then, yeah, you take the things that you think are most interesting, and then what I'm writing is really just kind of explaining why those things should be interesting. What's the context? Why is this something that's such a cool fact? And that means I have to give you a little bit of setup from, what before, middle, and after. But yeah, that's it. So start with a whole bunch of gigantic raw facts, and then trim it down to what's most interesting, and then verify it, and then write it. Yeah, I guess that's a very oversimplification of our process, but that's the basic gist of it. But it's different video to video. Whew. Aaron says, what is your top 5 cuisine in the world so far? My top 5 very subjective cuisines in the world so far. I guess, what are we calling cuisine? Can I call Asian a cuisine? Because I wouldn't, even if I say Thai's a country, it's not a cuisine. There's a lot of cuisines within Thailand. So I understand that this is probably, you were looking for like Italian, Japanese, but like, if I'm being honest with that answer, let's see what comes to mind first. Southern Thai, man, top 5 is hard. Sichuan is easy. That's up there for me. Sichuan Chinese is an easy one for me. It's possible, maybe, Daria, that Georgian has worked its way into my top 5 list. Georgian food, as one overarching cuisine, would be up there. If we can somehow convince you that Southern Thai encompasses both Southern Thai and Southern Thai Muslim, which are 2 completely different cuisines, but because they're from the same geographic region, if I can convince you that that's one thing, then Southern Thai would be on the list. Man, there are so many good ones that, like, it's so hard because even things you discount, you don't really think about. When you go to a place and you have food as it's meant to be, with the ingredients that it's meant to be used, when we were in sort of the west coast of Africa, Cameroonian cuisine would have been on the spot a top 5 for me. That's a pantheon cuisine. But like, can I say sitting here now that would be something that I would put up there? In the right context, I would, go to Morocco. Moroccan cuisine's up there. Like, go to Uzbekistan. Uzbek food is there. Japan. Obviously, my personal love affair with Sumatran food in Indonesia. That's high on my list, no matter where you are. When me and Daria were in Sri Lanka, we were ready to give up everything and open a Sri Lankan restaurant. You know, there's different regional Indian. I can't say Indian because, again, what is Indian food? What's Chinese food? What's Thai food? Like a cuisine, if we're saying countries, the top 5 countries that I would choose to live in if I only had to eat the food of a single country for the rest of my life, but then I have everything within that country to choose from, it still would be a hard question. Thailand, Japan, India, I don't know, Italy, definitely. China, I don't know, Indonesia. I'm going to kick myself for forgetting so many obvious ones. Like, I don't know, you know, some of the best meals of my life I had in Scandinavia. Some of the best meals of my life I had in sub-Saharan Africa. Like every country in Asia has the claim to, you know, to making some incredible food. And then if you're in Central Asia, if you're in Uzbekistan or Tajikistan, or, you know, those old Silk Road countries, that's Iran, right? Like, I mean, then at the time, you know, I could eat nothing but Persian food forever. Like, I don't know, really hard question. I did my best. All right, how about one on, this is from Bob Schiff. How about one on durian and chantaburi with the huge Chinese demand, followed by another question from Alwin Yap. Do it on durian, Malaysia versus Thailand, followed by, this is Daria. You've gotten good at these question screening. She's sequenced these. Roger Breitinger, durian history would be great, followed by Princely Dread. Durian. Yes, the reason why I am not going to do that in Thailand is because wait until we film in Sumatra. You know, like the scope of the durian restaurants and cafes and farms yes, Chantaburi is amazing, and we'll talk about durian in Thailand. But it's different. It's a different thing. I don't care. Like, you can talk about Hainan, Malaysia, Sumatra. Like I don't know if we could. Just wait until we film there. You're going to see it's a Muslim country, so there's really no bar culture. So there are places all over the part of Sumatra that I'm back and forth to that are basically like a bar, but it's durian. It's like the teenagers go on dates there. And like you know, that's where you go for a business meeting. That's where you bring your family on the weekend. That's where you go to like hang out and catch up with the boys on a night out. And like, but it's not alcohol, it's durian, and it's crazy. And the mountains of durians are just miles high. And the staff, they'll talk to you like a mixologist at these douchey cocktail bars. Like, what are you telling me your preferred flavor and aroma and all this? And then they'll find you a durian from their pile that's exactly what you want. It's crazy. And yeah, they hold it, as Daria was just saying from the other room, they'll hold it like a bottle of wine, speaking of which, let me top up my glass. Oh! And yeah, no, so I'm gonna do a durian video. Spoiler alert if you need it. I love durian. I understand it's not for everyone. If you say that you don't enjoy durian, I will say 2 things, which are, number 1, I understand, and number 2, you haven't been to the right place, because durian's great. But I also no judgment. I understand different people like different things. Yes, we will do durian. It will be taped in Sumatra. We're going to do it this year. All right, let's see what else we have. All right, let me see if I can interpret this question from Maker's Telemark. What would you do if YouTube crapped the bed like a black swan? That's you can turn a phrase. That's poetic. I assume that means what would happen if YouTube stopped being a viable source of income for movies. Yeah, we thought about that. You know, it's funny. People say YouTube's algorithm has changed recently. Like, you know, we had a big dip in views a couple months ago at the same time that a whole bunch of new channels just got pushed all over, and good for them. Like YouTube should be pushing new channels. It should be easier to break in than it is. It took us a long time. It took 2-3 years ago, there were channels that would take years and years before YouTube would even give them a chance. And then YouTube changed their algorithm to really stop pushing subscriptions and start pushing anything that's on a topic that somebody has ever watched before, which meant a lot of new channels got a huge push and a lot of old channels got knocked down for a while. And it does remind you, I was talking to I can't remember if it was Chris or Gary or somebody I was talking to about this fairly recently, where it's like, it might have even been, there's a small community of people who are doing YouTube. This, there's this Canto Mando channel has become a good friend as well. And we were talking about the YouTube business and there's some good channels of people who really know what they're doing. And we were talking about this recently of we start this thinking, oh, I'm going to start a YouTube channel because I won't have a boss. I'm going to be my own boss. And then, no, YouTube's our boss. Like, we still have a boss. Our boss is the YouTube algorithm. Like, we still work for somebody. Our boss is just a YouTube computer, program. So that is the positive and negative about doing this is, we are, I can't call it a negative because YouTube's been good to us. Like, it's been good to us. I enjoy what I do, and I feel like YouTube has treated our channel fairly. But there's a chance something could go sideways, and all of a sudden, YouTube says no more food content, done. Or YouTube says, you know what? We're losing money, no more monetization, post videos for fun, like it was when I had my first YouTube channel 18 years ago, 2006. That was a dumb channel. We'll talk about that one time. It was so much fun though. Another day, somewhere in the future, we'll get to that topic. But yeah, no. So back then it wasn't monetized, and what would we do if YouTube went back to not? If I couldn't make a living doing this, I don't know. I don't know. If you'd asked me at any other point in my career what I would do if I stopped doing that, I would have an answer for you. But right now, there's nothing else I'd rather be doing. I absolutely love everything about what we do. I feel like this is what I should be doing. I feel like this is a valuable service and an incredible challenge. And I just really love everything about this, the process of making these videos and the creative sort of collaboration with guys like Dennis and Carol and Ian. And I just love everything about what I do. And it pays, as the channel's gotten bigger, our income's gotten bigger. And that doesn't mean that we're getting rich from it, but it means that we can reinvest back in the channel and start to do things like buy this $15 webcam today that makes me look a little bit better than the last time we did a live stream. And we can travel, and we can film, and we can do these big shoots in other countries now. Again, it's what would I do if you need an answer. What would I do if YouTube stopped working? I would open an Indonesian nasi padang lunch restaurant in Bangkok. That's what I would do. That's what I was going to do before we started OTR. I was about to sign a lease on a place to open a really cool kind of elevated nasi padang Indonesian restaurant in Bangkok. And that's what I would do if I had no choice. I would get back into the restaurant business because that's the only other thing that I know how to do. All right, let's keep going. It's 9:30. We've been at this for 90 minutes. I deserve a quick break for a glass of wine. Let's keep going. Thank you to anybody who's sent us a little bit of money, and especially since I haven't said this in an hour, thank you so much. Any Patreon supporters who are watching this, you guys are the reason why this channel, if YouTube demonetized us, Patreon would hopefully still be able to keep us going, and we keep making videos. So thank you so much to our Patreon supporters. You guys and women are the heroes of OTR. Might as well just do it all at once. Daria, good choice, good wine. A reasonably good wine. All right, Jareth Lee. Awesome to hear that you quitting smoking. Yeah, thank you. I'm really good at quitting smoking. I do it all the time. But yeah, a month without a cigarette. Very, very pleased with that. Anyway, it was great to hear that you guys are planning to shoot in the Chiang Mai region. Is that in the 2025 roadmap? I mean, roadmap. It has to be, right? Like, we've now been doing this channel for a little bit more than 2 years. We're based in Thailand, and we haven't done khao soi. You know, we haven't done northern Thai cuisine at all because it's usually not very good in Bangkok. So we have to go north to film northern cuisine. We haven't filmed in Chiang Mai. The last time I was in Chiang Mai was a few months before we started OTR. No good reason why we haven't done it. Yes, we will. Is that in the 2025 roadmap? I don't want to promise anything, but it kind of has to be. Like, it really has to be. Ek Tran, OTR collab with Mark Wiens. Sure. You know, I people have asked about this before. If Mark wanted to do a collaboration, and I do, there's a little bit of ego in this where it's sort of like, I don't want to be the one to reach out to him, like, let him come to us, you know, which he would, why would he do that? Like, why would he do that? The guy's got like 11 million subscribers or something like that. I think whatever your opinion is of Mark Wiens from a YouTube content perspective, you know, it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone, but first of all, the guy's got a really interesting story. I think he grew up in Tanzania. Like, he's been making Thai food videos for a really long time. And I would that would be one of those stories where I don't care about, I'm not going to go for a meal with him and film a Mark Wiens video where he's, you know, I don't need, we have very different styles of content, but I'd be really, he's done more probably to bring attention to Thai food. You know, sometimes people rip Mark Wiens. It's a very easy target. It's, you know, people making fun of Mark Wiens because his videos are so over the top. But I'm going to be honest. I think that nobody at all in the world has done more to promote Thai food than Mark Wiens in the last however many years he's been doing the channel. He has probably generated more revenue for Thailand, for people coming here to eat, than everybody else put together. I would love to sit down with Mark and interview him and just hear his story and talk to him about, you know, who he is and learn about him, not food, but him personally, and just kind of get, you know, drill down a little bit on what it, you know, whether he kind of has that understanding of how much he's sort of meant to Thai food tourism. You know, that'd be an interesting one. I'd like to, I would do it in a second. I'd be really happy to do a video with Mark Wiens. Let's see, let me catch up on questions. Let me see if I can find some questions that we haven't gotten through yet from people who haven't had a chance to ask any questions yet. I don't think I've seen the name Hesky 10,600. Daria, what? Oh, did I skip over a few? Yeah. No, don't worry. I'm going through questions from people who haven't asked any yet right now, to make sure that I get these in, and then I'll go back to some of the other ones that we're skipping through. Hesky 10,600. Are you going to make a video about the history of Buddha jumps over the wall? Yeah, that's one that other people have asked for that before. I don't know if that would make its own standalone video, but it'll be something that will factor into a story at some point. I'm surprised that we actually haven't covered that. We haven't covered that one yet. You know, no, Daria, I just saw that. I'm just skipping over questions because I saw what was your cigarette brand over there, and I just couldn't decide whether I wanted to answer that question or not. Okay, why not? This is a live stream. Makers Telemark, what is your cigarette brand over there? Well, none now because I haven't had a cigarette in a month. Thank you. Surviving on snooze. The cigarette brands were so in Thailand. You know, what was I smoking here? L&M Reds, which are just awful, but they were the best option here. Before that, I'm a big advocate of Chinese cigarettes. I think China makes excellent cigarettes, but this is why I didn't want to answer that question, because now I sound like I'm promoting cigarettes, and I'm not. Smoking's terrible. Don't do it. I quit. You should too. Stephen Lua asks, I'm really wondering if we combine Chef Gaz Mook Rob with pho, would we get a really good pho? So yes, and I actually am going to answer that specifically because we were just in Laos filming and we were having Lao Khao Soi, which is probably my favorite noodle soup, period. It's probably my favorite food in Laos. It's just, I am obsessed with Lao Khao Soi. If you've never had it before, it's like, it's not, don't call it Khao Soi if that triggers for you, you know, the Burmese on milk Khao Soi or the Thai Khao Soi, because they're completely unrelated. In Lao Khao Soi, it's just like in Thai, it means cut rice. So it's just rice noodles cut. The Lao version of it is in a bone broth with basically like a tomato and meat and chili ragu. It's, I don't know, you'll see, we'll do a whole big thing on it in the video that we're gonna make. It's wild how good it is, but it's a very close analog to pho. Like, it's not that different from traditional pho, just has slightly different notes from tomato, and you know, and a little bit of difference in the herbs that are used. But like, you can get really good Lao Khao Soi with Mu Grab. Like, that's a thing, you know, and in our favorite place for Lao Khao Soi, that's one of the 3 options that they serve it with. And it's really, really good crispy pork in this Lao Khao Soi. And it's a slightly more sour pho. It's in the same realm of noodle soups. So the question was, what if we combine Chef Gaz Mook Grab with pho? Would we get a really good pho? Yes. Yes, we would absolutely get a really good pho. And I know that because I just had a really good Mook Grab Lao Khao Soi. All right, let's see. All right, I'm going to go back through 1 or 2 that I might have skipped over. Bella's Bone asks, love the recent vegan episode. How else has Buddhism influenced Asian cuisine? So Daria, this is the reason why I also skipped that one earlier. That's a half-hour answer. How Buddhism influenced Asian cuisine. Well, actually, was this your misspelling or was it the question? It says Bushism. Are we talking, we're talking about Buddhism, not the policies of George W. Bush, correct? Buddhism? Okay. How did Buddhism influence Asian cuisine? So, oh man, where do I even start with unpacking that question? I will refer you to some of our previous videos where we covered that topic. The oyster omelet video, we went pretty deep into Buddhist mythology. We did a lot of that in the vegan video that we did a lot of that in the vegan video that we did on J Festival, which was a year ago or more now, a year and a half ago. That's the biggest one that would tell that story. We talked about it a little bit in our video on the spread of noodles. But like, all right, if I'm going to give a 20-second synopsis answer of that, I would say soy sauce replacing fish sauce was a big thing, because it was the idea of not taking a life. And so the spread of soy sauce obviously had a massive impact on Asian cuisine. It wasn't invented by Buddhist monks, as the story sometimes tells. Soy sauce already existed, but it was promoted. It spread from North China because of Buddhism. That's one. Another one that doesn't really get mentioned very often, that I'm not sure if we really talked about on the channel before, but is as Buddhist culture spread, it had a big impact on alcohol consumption. You know, the idea of getting bombed, you know, was all of a sudden not okay anymore in a lot of corners of society. And that was when we saw tea spread. So really, like, this idea that tea was everywhere and has always been everywhere in Asian culture, not really. Like, we really want to see how tea started to spread, you know, far and wide. It was through Buddhist, you know, as Buddhism spread, tea spread, you know, so those two things, I think tea and soy sauce would be the two things that I would offhand say were the biggest impacts that Buddhism had on Asian cuisine. I hope that was a good enough answer. Okay, Tiha Kiao says, thank you so much for sharing about Myanmar food. Is there any Myanmar food that you want to try next? All of it. We've filmed 4 videos on Burmese cuisine now, which have all been filmed in Thailand, and that's so disappointing. And I understand that I need to go to Myanmar to really, understand what I'm missing. That let's hope that if we have one hope for 2025, it's that sanity reigns and the war ends and we can actually bring the cameras and go film in across the border. That would be really exciting, and not just in Yangon, which I know we could do that now, but I don't want to do that. And I don't know. There's channels that they go there and film right now. And I feel like it's sort of whitewashing the problem and kind of putting this veneer on everything. Like, hey, look how safe it is. Everything's fine. Here we are, eating in Yangon. And I don't know, that really kind of bothers me. It's just me, but I don't want to, I'm not going to whitewash, such a messy situation. I would rather just speak truth and wait until we can safely go there and film. Dennis, our lead director, he's been there 4 times, something like that, in the last year, filming a documentary. At first it was for a television network, and now he's, it's become an independent project where he's been on the front lines. I think most recently he was in Cayenne State. So he's been on the front lines of the war several times now, and has his experiences, when I approached him about joining OTR, his wife was the biggest cheerleader of our channel, because she's like, dude, Dennis, you can do this project that you won't be shot at, and please do that, so thank you, Carol, for advocating for him to join OTR. But yeah, no, that's my biggest hope for 2025, is we get to go to film in Myanmar, because that means that that things are hopefully improving. Hal Porter, citations. How do you deal with paywalls blocking you? It depends how important the Brother Mike. Thank you so much. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Brother Mike. I really appreciate it. Okay. How do you deal with paywalls blocking you in terms of citations? I have a subscription to a few services. The answer is usually, if it's important, I pay for it. There are some subscription services that give us access to large libraries of academic works. If we're talking about specific, one newspaper article that's behind a paywall that I want to access, but I need to get a subscription to the, whatever, Des Moines, Idaho Tribune for $7.99 a month, we'll skip that article. It's, I don't know. It's, in the end, I think my total subscription budget for everything that we pay for that gives us access to a whole lot of stuff still comes out to something, I think it's less than $100 a month. So I'm willing to pay that. It hasn't been a huge issue, thankfully, that we haven't been able to access something that we needed because of subscription paywalls. And generally, again, as a former journalist, I understand nobody likes paywalls, but I support the idea of newspapers and publications earning a living somehow, because we'd all be pretty screwed if they all went away. We're already pretty screwed. Let's drink more wine. Hey, all right. Hang on. Stephen Lua, how did you discover Chef Gaz's place in such a humble place like Klong Toi? Well, if we're using that as an example for how we discover other places, that's a different question. Specific to Chef Gaz, totally by accident, we were filming in Klong Toi slum. I had this idea of filming in Klong Toi. We live in central Bangkok, and it's not that far from Klong Toi slum. And I'd heard, it's something where, if you live in Bangkok, you hear these stories about Klong Toi slum. It's just, especially when you're doing what I do and you're reading about history, there's always references and stories to this sort of dangerous place called Klong Toi Slum. And just like all these YouTube channels that have filmed in the wrong place, I also thought Klong Toi Slum was the area that's kind of run down behind Klong Toi Market. I thought that's what it was. And then it turns out it's not. And it was this area that's called 70 Rai, because that's the size of it, 70 Rai, which I guess is like, what, 140 hectares, or it's either 2 or it's 0.5, I don't remember. But anyway, like it's a tiny little walled in area called 70 Rai next to the container port. I would never been there. And it just, the more I kind of read about this place and I found it on Google Maps, I'm just like, oh, you look at it, it's this tiny grid of narrow streets that's walled in, and it's pretty dense in the pins that would come up. There are places, they had no reviews. It was like, but you could tell from the pins that there were businesses and things to eat, and like, and it just seemed like such a different world. And it was so close to where I live that the first time I was ever in Klong Toi Slum was the first day we filmed there. And that shoot for that video was 3 days, which at the time we'd never done anything like that before. Yeah, we spent 3 full days there, and you can tell because I didn't even try and hide it. You'll see me like in different scenes, I'm just wearing a different shirt. Like, so we filmed in 3 different days, and we didn't plan to keep filming for 3 days. It was just, we'd wake up in the morning and I'd just be like, we're still missing. I want to know more about this. And I would call the camera guy, and we would just go back and film more. And yeah, we spent 3 full days there in the end. And on our first day in there, if you walk through you get dropped off. In general, when you come into Klong Toi, the easiest pin for a car or a motorbike to drop you, because they can't drive into these alleys, is in front of the AIDS outreach center. It's called the HDF Mercy Center. It's run by an NGO. And that's sort of like the point on the map that shows up on ride-hailing apps. And if you get dropped off there, which is where we always would pin to, you're kind of at the entry to just this different neighborhood. It felt like, I don't know how to describe it. It was like a Spike Lee movie. You just like early 90s guys with boom boxes, like, it's different. It's the atmosphere in that. If you've been to Klong Toi, it's different. It's really different, in a really exciting way. And our first day, we were pretty tentative about filming because we didn't know, like, is this really dangerous? Like people say, like, where are we? Can we just walk around and put a camera in people's faces? Are they going to be okay with it? And in the end, we ended up making friends with these guys who I think were in the very beginning of the video, the guys who were the cockfighting guys. And if you walk in from the HDF Mercy Center, there's kind of this one wide street. This is 7-Eleven. There's some bigger businesses, some factories. That's where like the textiles are being made. Some of the factories that are operating there. And about, 4 blocks in on the left side, there's the market, the morning market. And that's the one wide alley, and all the other alleys are tiny. And we ended up making it to the end of the alley, and that's where the cockfighting guys were. And they were really like gregarious. They were very outgoing. They welcomed us in and were really happy to have us, and invited us to sit down, and we got to know them. And at some point we needed to get some food because we were hungry, and the chef guy's counter is really close to there. And I don't remember how. I think I might have just walked around the corner to buy a bottle of water or a pack of cigarettes. There's no real stores in Klong Toi Slum, but it would be like, there were a few places where, there would just be an open window and somebody selling stuff. And I saw this counter, and I don't remember whether anybody recommended us to go there, or if I just saw it. I'm like, let's try the food here. What do you have? And yeah, so it was purely by coincidence. And when you see me on camera eating it and saying that, like acting as surprised as I was fully in shock. Like, we did not taste the food there before we filmed it. We didn't know that existed. It was just blind luck. And now my mission is to get him into the Michelin Guide. Hey, Gary Butler's in the chat. You've already come up in conversation a couple of times since we started this an hour and 50 minutes ago, 1 bottle of wine ago, Gary, but thank you for your quick Gary Butler story while he's online. Gary, when we started the channel, we were, I was talking a little while ago about how the algorithm has changed and how now like newer channels are getting more of a shake, and like you see new channels starting and YouTube just immediately is going to at least give them an opportunity to like, okay, we're going to give you, this exposure on a couple of videos and let's see if it connects or not. But the algorithm didn't used to be like that. You used to start with 0 and have to completely do it yourself. And so yeah, when we started, I was watching Gary Butler's videos because when we moved to Bangkok, that was one of my resources for how to get around. But we were nobody. We had like 200 subscribers or something. And Gary finds us on Instagram and he says, he's like, hey guys, this is right after the Sriracha video, I guess. And he says, yeah, like what you guys are doing, keep up the good work. Something really supportive, which meant a lot. Is like, Gary Butler, guy had like 50,000 subscribers at the time. He knows who we are. That's crazy. And then Gary was nice enough to come with us to, I invited him on a shoot. And he came down to Nang Lung Market late 2022 and then shouted us in a post, community post on his channel. And again, like we were non-existent. There was no benefit in collaborating with us to Gary at all. So yeah, we're sitting here 200,000 subscribers now. And it's like, that was, our kickstart, pulling this is me, like starting a lawnmower. That was Gary, really giving us the start, so appreciate it. And it turns out off the air, he's a complete, he's an absolute jerk. Stay as far. I'm kidding. Gary's great. We became very close friends off the air. Super guy. Gary, I need to update you on our Lao trip. Mick and Noi from Doi Hanoi. Unbelievable people, had such a great time in Vientiane. Lao Khao Soi is the best noodle soup in this part of the world. Gary, we'll catch up soon, I'm sure. So, all right, let me continue with the questions. All right, so we are at 9:50. We've been at this almost 2 hours. My voice is fading, but I'm going to keep going for a little while longer. All right, let's see. BNP. Have you had? Sorry, Daria. What did I do?
Somebody
okay. Actually, let me use that quickly as a chance to take a sip of wine. All right. Have I had? Where was my question? I meant BNP. Have you had sok lek, and where would you recommend to try it in Bangkok? That's an Isan dish, yeah. Sok lek. That's I don't know. It's like it's raw. It's raw meats. I don't know. It's raw pig organs. I'm gonna quickly Google. That's an Isan dish. Yeah, Gary, you can tell me. I have had it. God, watch our Lao videos when these come out. The ones that we just finished filming. You'll see me eating a lot of raw stuff. I don't know BNP if I have a recommendation of where to have that in Bangkok, but maybe Gary does. So, Stephen Lua, thank you so much. Incredibly generous of you. Gary, if you're listening, sok lek, if you have a recommendation in Bangkok of where to find a good version of it, because I personally do not. Let's see. Jim Pearsall, what's the weirdest foods or ingredients that you've had in Thailand? Weird is complicated. What? Which one do we have with Gary that was the weirdest? The what? Oh, so Darius just shouting from the other room. The weirdest thing we tried was the mung bean one that we had with Gary Butler a couple of weeks ago at in the coffee video. The mung beans stuffed in mung beans. That was really weird. Weird is a complicated term. I get so angry at YouTube channels that are like, look at this weird food. Like, it's not weird to the people who eat it. Like, I hate using the word weird in context of something untraditional to our palate. Like in Laos, we were eating raw bugs from that eat on the pandan plant food history. Thank you so much. And thank you for sticking around. You've been at this chat since the beginning. Yeah, it is. I'm just reading the comments. It's clickbait. It's clickbait. Like this weird stuff. It's the reason why I don't have respect for channels that I'm not going to name, but you probably some of the bigger food channels online really make their living from like having this gross stuff in this disgusting place, and it's just like dude, just these okay, it's weird to you, but like that's it's everything that's wrong with sort of food YouTube is just this otherism of like you know making a face on the thumbnail like there's weird stuff. It's like that's the opposite of what OTR is meant to be. That's the opposite of what our mission is, and I'm just so like I don't know. It's just making the world a worse place when you make videos like that. About weird like. But yeah, if we're talking about weird, isn't like something that we didn't see coming, and was very challenging for the palate. Yeah, the mung bean thing we just had was up there. Um, I don't know, weird. Like the first time I tried the satay, in a Thai context, that was strange. And then that moved my palate in a place that my palate had never been before. I want weird. I want my palate to be challenged. Those bugs in Lao with the koi bitter, like we were in this Hmong market and I was given a handful just from this dude. He's just like, you got to try this, just a market worker. It wasn't what he was selling. It's what he was eating. So he was having his own lunch and it was sticky rice with goi bitter, which is raw meat with bile, and then live insects that feed on the pandan plant. And he said that the white ones are what women should eat, and the red ones are for men because they're really spicy and powerful. So he put a live red bug on this raw meat with bile and sticky rice. And I'm going to be honest, if like younger me, I'm not trying to make myself sound like I'm a hero for being okay with eating anything, because I wasn't. Most of my life, I would have, no chance I would have tried that. Like, no chance. But, you live and you learn and you grow, and it was awesome. That was like, I was talking about that bug the rest of the day. That was the biggest punch of flavor that I've had. I'm still talking about that bug and how I can get those here. I don't know, weirdest thing I've had. Yeah, I'll just take Gary aside on this and say the mung bean stuffed inside a mung bean pancake, stuffed inside more mung beans, or whatever that was like a mouthful of sand. That was very, very, very strange. Tea with Kara. Ever thought about doing a long episode about chopsticks? I love using my Korean chopsticks as much as possible. That's a great idea, actually. I think somebody else suggested that in our last live stream. Maybe it was you. I like that idea. The history of chopsticks is something that I like taking on ideas that I don't know, because that makes the research so much fun. It's easier to make videos when I already kind of know the subject, but it's so much more fun when there's something that I just have no clue. And let's just like have some drinks and just spend a few days just not talking to anybody and just deep diving into research and finding the story. I would love to know the story of chopsticks. Great idea. Let me give that a look and see if I can figure something out on that. Maker's Telemark. Are you refilling my wine for me? Thank you. Can you address the long-term visa issue? I don't know if this was for you. Oh, you were asking if that wasn't for me. Oh, so Daria left me a note. I don't know if that was for me or if that was for somebody else in the chat. Maker's Telemark, can you leave another comment and clarify that, whether that's something you want me to address or if that was meant for the chat? Thank you for your editorializing, Daria, and also for refilling my glass of wine. Thank you. Come, you can hand it to me on camera. It's fine. Cheers. Okay, we're catching up. We're almost towards the end of the questions. When we run out of questions, I'm going to wrap this up. So if you have any more, throw them in. Our last live stream, we went 2 hours. Let me find out real quick how long we went. Our last one was 2 hours, 32 minutes and 47 seconds. That means I need to do 33 more minutes to surpass that. And I think that's about my limit today. So let's see if we can push this for half an hour more. And then I'm going to be done. It's, when I was younger, I used to host a sports talk show solo, and so I got used to this. I'm okay to sit here and just talk, but I didn't have wine. The show was on at 6 a.m. All right, where were we? Where did I leave off? Steve Jones, have you ever considered doing a video where you would have a few drinks and Thai food, specifically catering for that, like in Andy Ricker's Drinking Food book? I loved the coffee one, which is in that style. I'm going to be honest, I'm not familiar with Andy Ricker. And I know that sounds crazy. I don't watch food content. I watched very Bangkok specific food content like Gary Butler when I moved to Bangkok to find my way around the city. I don't watch food YouTube at all. And I don't know if Andy Ricker, I know who Andy is. I know who Andy is because he's become, I guess, I know of him through Chow. Chawati Nualker is one of Thailand's best food writers. Who's a very close friend of ours. And I know she's, I guess, shown him around some in Thailand. I don't know who he is. I don't watch food TV. I used to be obsessed with Bourdain, but like, since we started OTR, I watched zero food content. And the reason why is because sometimes I'm not scared of watching videos that I don't like. There's plenty of videos that are not my style. I don't need to, it's fine. I won't go down that road. There's not everything is my style that I want to watch, but my big fear is that I will like a video. Because sometimes when I watch food YouTube or food television content, it's really well done. And then I start second guessing myself and I start thinking, oh, I should incorporate that into my videos. And then I start sort of overthinking my own writing and my own production process. And it gets so much harder for me. It's like golf. It's like when you play golf and like you have so many thoughts in your head. If you have 20 people giving you advice, then you can't even hit the ball anymore because you're just overthinking everything. And, for me, writing is such an intense process. I'm a very deep perfectionist with our videos, and you have to fully believe in what you're doing because it's like, this is hard. This is really, really, really hard work. I mean, again, I was in the hospital a year ago just with exhaustion. I just passed out on the street walking home from dinner because I haven't slept in 4 nights. So we're just working on these videos. And like, I work really hard on these and for the first year and a half, we didn't make any money on the channel, like no money, and you have to believe in what you're doing. And then you have to really kind of know what you want it to look like. And you have to have this vision that you're trying to execute. And when I would watch other food content, sometimes I would see things that were really well done. And then it would get into my head and I would like want to rewrite something to make it more like something else. And then I would start questioning whether what I was doing was the right way or whether what they were doing was the right way. And you can't. Like, some people have that ability to compartmentalize, and watch something and not have it affect their own work or their own writing, but I can't. So I honestly don't watch, I really don't watch any food content at all because I just don't, I need to, if I take a month break from filming, I can watch anything online. It's great. I can actually enjoy it and watch it as a viewer, but we haven't done that yet since we started the channel. And I watch plenty of, if you saw my YouTube homepage, there's a lot of stuff that I do enjoy watching. But I just don't watch, I don't watch food content because I just don't have the ability to watch well done food programs and also feel confidence in my own writing and my own edit process, if that answers that question. That doesn't answer the question at all. If that helps explain what I'm trying to get across. TC, 100 Singapore dollars. TC, thank you so much. Have been watching since the Thai University video. That was a really fun one, the Ram Kam Heng one. We did that one, the Ram Kam Heng video we did because there had been the government coup after the last election in Thailand, and there were protests blocking the streets in the old city, which is where we were supposed to film. So we had a shoot planned in downtown Bangkok, and we just couldn't get there because usually our shoots are pretty well planned. and we had a good one planned that day, and then we just couldn't get there because the streets were blocked because of protests. And so that Ram Khamhaeng University video was the only one we've ever done that I'm aware of where we decided what we were going to film on the spot. It was like, let's just come up with the plan now and just go and shoot something. And like, we've never done that before or after. That was a really fun one. And I think the video came out really well. So Makers Telemark answered how the visa, this is about the visa question. Yeah. How we lived here for so long? We started a company. OTR is a registered Thai business. And we are both on residence permits and work visas through our company. We didn't want to take a chance of being here illegally. Unfortunately, we both have a fairly high profile. We have a YouTube channel, so we can't play games with the visa. We have, our lives are here. We want to be here safely. Daria has some reasons why her own home country isn't really a place that she's ready to go back to right now. After what we went through in China in the last year there, we were not going to have any issue. It didn't matter if we didn't have the money to eat, we were going to spend the money on getting a legal visa. We had to do that. The one thing that we couldn't play games with was being here legally, for the sake of ourselves and our safety and our business and our dogs and everything. We hired a lawyer, started a Thai business, and we're here legally. And if anybody wants to do that, if you're asking the question because you're trying to do that, if you're trying to be here legally and start a Thai business, feel free to shoot us a message to our Instagram, and I'll send you our lawyer's contact if you need, or a lawyer's contact who can help do it. It's expensive. Like, Thailand really wants you to come for a short time. It doesn't want you to stay unless you're willing to invest in Thailand and be a good citizen and not be a drain on the economy. So visas are expensive by Thai standards, but yeah, we did it. We did it legally. Okay, Royce Christopher, hopping on late, so apologies if this has been asked, but I'm super curious where your favorite place is to eat pizza in Bangkok and any other comfort classics you seek out. So me and Daria, when we first came here, we used to really like pizza from a place called Mediterra, but it's closed now. I think it's closed. I don't think that's open anymore. We've been eating, every once in a while we'll order Fam Time for delivery because it's cheap and quick. It's not great pizza, but it's like 200 baht, which is what, like $6 for a pizza, which is crazy. Who does good pizza here? What's the New York place called in Ekamai? Yeah, there's a New York pizza place in Ekamai that's pretty good. You what? Pepina. Yeah, Pepina's pretty good. What's the one that you really like? The gigantic ones that we get? Pizza Mania, the huge 2-meter pizzas that are like the wheel of a those trucks that drive deep into the mines. Pizza Mania. And again, do we eat what you see us eat on camera? Off camera, we were taping behind the scenes for our Patreon, which will go up on Patreon. I gotta send this to Mary. We're taping a little bit behind the scenes in Laos. We ate, I was just telling the story about having these bugs and the raw meat with bile and all this incredible food all day that's really obscure in Laos. And then we wrapped filming for the day, and we all just went out for French food, baguettes, cheese, cold cuts, couple bottles of wine. So yeah, comfort food is a thing. And Easy Burger is a spot we really like. We filmed it in our Salt video because we like that place and we wanted to give them some love. And so it's a good way to get that in. I don't know, Daria, what do we eat for comfort food here? What? Georgian's too expensive to be comfort food. Georgian's great though. The Georgian place here, Avra, it's great. 100 Maha set, Charlie's, Chef Charlie's place. They do delivery fried rice, which is insane. It's insane. It's just fried rice from 100 Maha set. And we get that once a week. That's so good. Bartle sandwiches pretty frequently. Bartle sourdough sandwiches. Larder is great. Doria is a big fan of, where did we go this morning? We walked our dogs there this morning. Sarni's is good. There's a new place in Bangkok, speaking of comfort food, that just started. I just found it on Grab Delivery recently. It's called like $5 Philly cheesesteak. It just does Philly cheesesteaks. That was fire. That was so good. What? Oh, money? Is that what you're telling me? My Vascan Chubaralian, $20. Vascan, thank you so much. This is like it's a deeply humbling that people would support us like this. Pala Pizza. Oh, Pala Pizza. Okay, Daria is an obsessive fan of Pala Pizza. That's also across the street from one of the parks that you run at. So we'll go do like a big run and then get Pala Pizza Romano on the way home. Anyway, yeah, Pala Pizza is fantastic. That's really, really good. Anyway, Vaskin, thank you very much. It means a lot to me. Have you guys ever been to Studio, Steve Jones, have you ever been to Studio Lamb on Soy 51 Sukhumvit? Really great little bar for live music that sells excellent local drinks, including Yadong, and gets interesting international bands. Have we been to Studio Lamb? I don't think so. I think Boris used to be a regular there. Did he play there? Boris, who was one of our former directors. If you turned this on late, we were saying earlier, Boris is no longer working with us, but that's not necessarily permanent. He's just got a project overseas that's going to take him some time. Boris did a great job. We're proud of his opportunities for future endeavors, but Boris is in a punk band as well. And that sounds like a place that he would know. I don't know. I'm not cool anymore. I don't like, now I'm sitting here just talking to my webcam and drinking wine at home at 10 o'clock on a Sunday night. All right, Maker's Telemark. What are the stories behind your tattoos? I'll be quick on this because I got a few more questions I got to get in. That one you see as I'm drinking my wine is coordinate points. It's 4 coordinate points for places. That's a mariner's compass. It's a highly original idea. Nobody's ever done a mariner's compass before as a tattoo. Very original idea. It is. It's 4 locations that all were incredibly meaningful to me when I was very intoxicated and getting a tattoo. Those locations that are on my arm are Charlottesville, Virginia, which is my hometown. Beijing, China, Medan, Indonesia, and this is a few years ago. So I don't think I did Shenzhen. I need to add Bangkok to that list. It deserves its place. I should get a Bangkok related tattoo. But yeah, no. So it's Charlottesville, Virginia. It's Asheville, North Carolina, which is sort of where my family is mostly concentrated, and where I used to spend my summers as a kid. Beijing and Medan, North Sumatra. Those are the 4 bullet points on this. BNP, how about an episode on the mortar and pestle? That I'll put that up there with the chopsticks idea is a really good one that I want to do, and also the wok. That was something that was really fascinating to me. I have no idea which old video this was that it came up, but one of our first videos, I remember learning in my own research process for that unrelated video that the wok was actually an adaptation of an Indian pot called a gwali. It's not originally Chinese. It was originally Indian, and it was brought to China and then spread through China in its current form as the wok. That's something else that I think is really intrinsic to Asian cooking. Mortar and pestle, filed away. I'll consider that. Is there a long history to Thai iced tea from Bella's Bone? Not really, and controversially, it is an adaptation of tea tarik, which is Malaysian. Now, I'm not taking a side as to who makes it better, because Thai tea is unbelievable. And I would love to do a story just on, what is it, Chatramui, the brand that's kind of, Daria? That's the brand that you really like, the Chatramui, yeah? Again, I'm a coffee guy. I don't drink a lot of Thai tea, but there's a story that needs to be told is just that one brand of Thai iced tea. but no, Thai tea, 20th century adaptation of tea tarik from Malaysia, which itself has a really interesting story, and that would be one that I would film in Malaysia one day. Dominic Schwind, new question, says, how do you split the workload between writing, researching, filming, and editing? Okay, and by the way, that almost brings us to the end of the questions. So if anybody wants to throw another one or two in while we're online, please do it. And I'm going to sign off pretty soon. Me and Daria have a movie to watch tonight. We're trying to get into the Christmas spirit. Are you still up for it? We still up for a little movie night? I need to stay up. I got football coming up later. Yeah, I need to stay up because I do have NFL tonight. I'm going to wrap this fairly soon. All right, real quick. All right, so how do I split the workload between writing, research, filming, and editing? It's mostly me. The editing is the only part of that. Let me backtrack a little bit because that's not fair. Sometimes there have been a couple of videos recently where I've just been too overwhelmed with the research, and I put part of it on Mary, who we brought in as a part-timer, who's based in the UK. She's grew up in a Thai family, and so, but she's in the UK and she's helped us out quite a bit, and she's been a nice assistant from a research perspective when sometimes it's just too much for me to take on myself. But yeah, generally, my life is writing. Like that's filming is one day for me. Well, I'll just walk you through the process of a basic video. So essentially, this is how it works. So we forget the research. I addressed that earlier. So I've got my back end research done. So that's just in the background. I'll just find a few spare hours here and there and work on research for something, And so I have my kind of foundation of what a video is going to look like. I'll plan our shooting locations, and then we go out and film. So then let's start at filming day. So we'll film, and then after filming day is over, which is usually our shoots are typically, say, 8 to 10 hours of filming for a video. If we're doing a single day shoot, it's about what I would say the average would be. So we'll film, and then when filming's done, I'll go home, and my director, whoever it is for that shoot, will go home. And then the first step is the director. Because we're working on the Lao videos now, I'll use Dennis as an example, just because I need a name to throw in. So I'm not just saying the director. So let's say it's a video me and Dennis are working on together. So we'll shoot, and then after the shoot's over, Dennis, the first step, that's my only kind of peaceful night, is after the shoot, I don't think about the video. It's the only night that I have free. We'll watch a movie, we'll relax, I'll enjoy the evening as much as I can after the shoot. And then that night, what will happen is Dennis will then back up all the footage and cut a file together of all the narrations and voiceovers and audio that we recorded. So that'll all get put together into one long file. The reason why we do it that way is because when I'm writing the script, I need time marks so I need one file of all the audio that was recorded. That can be interviews, that can be just me walking around being like, oh, look at that. Like, it could be narrations to camera, or it could be just sound that's recorded, but I need all of it in one file. And then when I get that file, then he'll have a day off or 2 days off while I'm transcribing that and writing the first draft. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm just transcribing all of the audio so that I can go section by section and figure out what needs to be in the video. What I have, what do we have? What did we record? What am I working with? And then I'm going to do a first draft, which is usually takes a long time, because even just figuring out the tone, sometimes it starts with music. Sometimes after I transcribe that, I'll just spend like half a day like playing around with different music to see like, what's the theme of this video? Does this feel like, what does it feel like? What emotion do I want to feel with this video? What's our musical theme going to be for this video? So that we kind of know how I'm writing it. Am I writing this with in a fun way or in an emotional way? Or how am I writing this? What does the video feel like before we decide what does it look like or sound like or anything? So then, I'll write a first draft. usually like not much, but maybe half of the video, and 4 or 5 components of the video. So cold open, maybe a history section, which is what, it sounds like. First stop, some transitions. I'll write the first 15 minutes of a video, and I'll send it off to Dennis, and then he'll right away get to work into cutting that together in a rough cut, so I can see how that is, the feeling right. Did I get the tone right? Are we hitting the right emotional notes? What works, what doesn't work? And usually my first draft, very little works, but if I can find 1 or 2 little things that seem kind of, oh, that's cool, that beat's cool, and then Dennis will get back to me with like, hey, by the way, you should know we have this extra B-roll that you didn't use for this part. If you want to make this part longer, go for it. Or, hey, the way you wrote this, you're really stretching our footage to the breaking point, cut it down some, and then it gets to the point where I like to look at it. Once we have the tone right, then the video becomes sort of like making a sculpture out of marble, where you're just trimming it down, like you're just chiseling at it until all that's left is the good stuff. And so that's usually, again, like it'll usually the final draft is around draft 12 to draft 15, but not all 12 or 15 of those are we building out. So maybe 4 or 5 drafts Dennis will actually like build, put it in a timeline and build it out and send it back to me, and I'll watch and we'll make changes and do it again and again and again and again. And then the last step, once we feel kind of good about it, when we know that we have the tone right, but it's not quite there, the last step is we'll get together, which means he'll come up to Bangkok and spend the night at my house, or I'll go down to Rayong and stay over there. And we'll just have a marathon edit session where we'll go frame by frame and work our way through the video. We'll get all the little audio beats correct, and we'll get the pauses right, and we'll just get those details down. Spartan Storm, I think that's the second donation from Spartan Storm to the cause. Awesome. That's like, this has turned into a Woody Allen telethon. I'm on hour number 3, but thank you. Really, really, really thank you. Anyway, yeah, so we'll do our marathon edit session, and we'll go through it frame by frame, and we'll just work our way through it until the video is over, and we'll just get it perfect. And that's from me, and that's from him. That's both of us just watching every shot to be like, what could be better? How do we get this? Do we need a little bit, like, do we want to add literally, we're talking about fractions of seconds that we're adding in or subtracting or just cleaning up or like changing shot sequences, but collaborating, because, he's the guy who understands the footage and the visual story he's trying to tell. And I understand the story that I'm trying to tell, and we'll just work on it until it's perfect, or as close to perfect as we're capable of making it. And then the last 2 steps in the process are, I'll watch it with Daria, and she'll often catch something that I missed, where she'll be like, oh, that section's it really lost me, or it was boring, or something as simple as just in this part, are you sure you want to show this visual when you're talking about this, or just these little things. So Daria is clueless going in. She has not been a part of the writing process. So she's the only person who gets to watch it with fresh eyes, which is incredibly useful, because she'll pick up on things that, like, me and Dennis by this point, we're so broken from just being so deep into the weeds on the build, that you need somebody with a fresh perspective to take one look at it and just catch the obvious stuff that we messed up. And so that's Daria's role in this, and she's really good at that. And then Dennis will have one more day of color correction and audio correction, getting our levels at the right level, and then obviously correcting for color to make it look as good as it can look. And then while he's doing that, I'm working on the transcript, where I have to manually write every word of the video in a professional way, which takes like 6-7 hours to do. Blanca, are you bored? Are you bored that you're not getting attention? Come, Blanca. I'm on a live stream right now. Come. And so, yeah, like where was I? We're on color correction. Blanca, it's okay. Say hello to the people. Vango, you're here. Come, Vango. Yeah, so color and audio correction, and then while he's doing that, I'm working on the subtitles, which is a big part of it, because we need subtitles. I mean, like 30% of the people who watch our videos watch with subtitles on. Those aren't, you can't AI generate those. They're terrible. So I have to spend half of a day while Dennis is doing color and audio, transcribing every word of it and cleaning up my script, which is written like a script, into something that you can use as subtitles. And I'm doing the thumbnail, which Daria is usually taking the photo for. I'm do I taste like wine? Blanca was abandoned outside my bar in Beijing. So she's a bar dog. You put a double IPA in front of her, she's the happiest dog in the world. Anyway, yeah, that's kind of the process. Thumbnail, title, back-end work, subtitles, put it online, upload, one night of enjoyment, and then go out and film and do it all over again from zero. 86 times now, 86 full-length videos. Any last questions? Well, Pigpen 627 Foreman, why do you do all of your shoots in only one day instead of spreading them out over a few? That's why, because our working process is so intense. If we spread out our shoot, again, we need, I just want to get into it. I'm okay to take the hit and do it all at once, because that gets us into the edit process sooner, and the edit process is really 99% of the work. You know, our videos are made in the edit, not in the filming process. Although that's not fair to the filming process is extremely important, but really the storyline comes from the edit. And yeah, so we shoot it all at once, because we need to get into the edit. Some videos we do over more than one day. It's not, say 75% of our videos we do at one go. But sometimes, yeah, we finish and I'll start writing and we'll realize, you know, we really can't tell this story without adding in this. And we'll go out and shoot. We'll add a second day of filming. We do that sometimes. It's not rare for us to add a second day of filming when it's necessary to tell the story. Maker's Telemark, thank you so much. $10. I empathize with you entirely over the years, like a twin chef, and I really wish for you both to keep crushing it. I hope this helps a little bit. Big Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. It's December 22nd. I'm sorry that I didn't even say that until now. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. That's Blanca just playing. She's just chasing her tail. She's bored because I've been on camera for 2.5 hours now. Blanca, bring a toy over here. Toy. Yeah, so she, can you hear her in the background? I don't know if my microphone is strong enough to pick her up, just growling and grabbing her own tail in the background. Yeah, it's hard to notice the Christmas spirit when it's 27 degrees Celsius outside. But yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year coming up. Everybody who's been with us since we started this live stream, I hope I've done a good enough job of trying to answer as many questions as I can. I am very much running out of steam. And for everybody who left comments that weren't related to questions, I'm going to go back through and read this chat later. So don't worry if you try to get my attention with a message and I didn't pick up on it while I was trying to answer questions, everything you wrote will be read. So I promise I'll go through and read it personally. And if I didn't get to any questions, I apologize. I am at the end of my bottle of wine and at the end of my voice and at the end of my energy, and my back is hurting and my dog wants to go out. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever your next few days of the end of winter and the end of 2024 has in store. I hope it's been a great year for you. It's been an amazing year for us. Very thankful for all of you and your support for the channel and your support for me and Daria and Blanca and Van Gogh, Dennis and Carol, Ian, Mary, Boris. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate all of you. We do this for you and we do this for us because this is so much fun. We really, really, really enjoy this. Hey, one more in before the buzzer. Robert Blair, thanks for the great videos. Go Who's, wahoo wah. Where's my UVA cap? Guys, good night. Hey, Mary's online too. And Gregor Brown, almost forgot. Gregor, what did you almost forget? I'm gonna hold this chat open long enough for you to answer what you almost forgot. Gregor Brown, by the way, Italy-based YouTuber, met us on the street this morning as we were walking to get our coffee. Gregor, thank you so much. And yeah, that's the end of my spiel. By the time I finish this glass, I'm gonna sign off. I really wanted to make it to I needed 3 more minutes to surpass our length of the last YouTube live stream, but you can hear my voice starting to cut out.
Answer the question about how you not get the runs.
You want me to? That's the question you want me to answer. How do you not get the runs? That's how you want. We're gonna end with that. Can you imagine going to a concert and like the last song is? I was trying to end on a high note. You want me to end on how do you not get the runs? That's how you want me to end? You need to stop drinking your share of the bottle of wine. The question Daria wanted me to finish with was, how do you not get the Crixtus? How do you not get the runs from the street food? Very elegant and noble way for us to end this. Dominic Schwinn, by the way, thank you so much for your kind Christmas gift to us, and have a good evening to you too. How do we not get the runs? The answer is, I'll give you 2 answers. The first answer is, this fear of getting food poisoning from being in Asia. Thai people and people in any country, they don't want to get food poisoning either. So, if the food that's being served isn't sanitary or safe, local customers won't go there either. So I would say, don't be quite so concerned or paranoid about getting food poisoning, because if you see a line, you get in it. It's usually safe because, again, Thai people have no more interest in being sick than we do. The second part of the answer is, we both, me and Daria, just recovered from pretty severe food poisoning, which I don't know how we picked it up, but we both had a rough couple of days very recently. That's a terrible. I answered that question because Daria asked me to. Let me give you a serious final question, and this is going to be from Gregor, who we met this morning. Favorite Asian beer? Gregor, real quick, corporate craft beer or corporate lager or craft beer? And in the meantime, I'll just go ahead and answer that. Favorite Asian beer, if we're talking about just standard corporate lager, Beer Lao 1, Bintang 2, Qingdao 3. Yeah. Do we count Kirin as being a corporate lager? That's not. That's more upscale price point, yeah? Qingdao's better than Asahi. Controversial take, but true. Beer Lao 1, Bintang from Indonesia 2, Qingdao 3. Qingdao's an underrated beer. It's actually a pretty good beer. Taiwan beer, great call. Taiwan beer is outstanding for a corporate lager. Last place, tied for last, Chong and Sing, Thai beers. Thailand is an amazing country for everything except beer. But craft beer, that's going to take me down a rabbit hole. It's going to take us way beyond our point of being able to walk the dogs and watch a movie tonight. But favorite craft beers in Asia? Let's see. Oh man, how do I answer that one quickly? Yardley Brothers in Hong Kong is certainly deserving of a place on that list. Oh man, there's a couple of really good ones Trip Smith and Guiyang in China. Yeah, great call. I've got a couple in Japan that I'd love to shout. Heart of Darkness in Vietnam, I think, is so big by now that you really need to kind of go to Saigon to have their good stuff. But John Pemberton and crew makes great beer. Young Master in Hong Kong, that Daria used to be a manager for. Can we say can we say Sandport, United People's Brewery, Sandport here in Thailand. They make incredible beer. That's so. If you see, if I could turn my webcam around, if you see over there, you won't be able to see it right now because it's behind the glass and the lights are off. But me and Daria have a tradition of everywhere we go, we Gregor, thank you so much. Thank you, Gregor. We have a tradition of everywhere we go, the first thing we do is go to a local brew pub, microbrewery, everywhere. because that's how you meet the coolest people. It's how you find your way around. It's how you kind of get integrated into a new place, make new friends. So we have a bottle that we've brought back from everywhere we've ever been together of local craft beer. Are you giving yourself? If I'd finished this live stream 2 minutes ago, you would have shared that with me. You just poured yourself the rest of the wine. I'm going to sign off. Thanks, everybody. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Thank you for your support. Good night.